What do you say, guys? Welcome to the post-game show here on Cover Crimson. A colossal upset, and Alabama fell victim to the rat poison. And I know a lot of you guys that are hanging out with us right now are sick about the final score. We are too, but it is what it is. And Alabama loses to Vanderbilt 40-35. Clint, I mean, I don't even really know how to even get this started, other than this is a learning experience for Kalen DeBoer. And I guess you realize this was what Nick Saban was best at, and that's not falling victim to these type of rat trap games. And he never lost them. We talked about it, on different shows about it. Jake Coker always talks about what it was like before you played these games. Mike Johnson said he ran around telling everybody that, don't forget about the Louisiana Monroe. We haven't had a game like this ever. And this is one of the worst losses in program history, if not the worst.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it. I don't think it's as bad as Louisiana Monroe, but it's close enough where you can say this is easily one of the worst losses in program history. And it was, it's like I said on Twitter, and a lot of people aren't going to want to agree with it, but this is a lot of Vanderbilt playing really good football. I mean, they came prepared. No one gave them a chance, including me. And they shut me up, they shut everybody up, and so you got to give them props. It's a lot of what Alabama did. It was a lot of self-inflicted problems, but Vanderbilt just a masterclass as far as the game plan, the way they set Alabama up on first down to kind of figure out what they were going to be doing. Just incredible performance by Vanderbilt, and just a colossal disappointment from Alabama.
Yeah, the turnovers were bad. The penalty on the third down, which turned out to be such a big part of this game, the roughing the passer, which really didn't like too much of roughing the passer. But, I mean, Alabama just couldn't stop them. They had no idea where the ball was. They didn't look prepared. They didn't make many adjustments in the second half. I mean, this is one of those games where you come into the SEC – and even lowly Vanderbilt can beat you. And it didn't help at all that Nick Saban was talking about the home field advantage and kind of feeding into the rat poison. I talked about all this stuff during the week, and I'm the one that did a show that said they could beat Alabama. I didn't think they would, but I thought they could. And they played better than any of us could have even imagined. I mean, it's just one of those games, like to them, take your hat off. I mean, it was one of the best. This is the best game that Vanderbilt football's ever had. Hands down.
And they should enjoy it. I mean, why wouldn't you? And you're 100% right. Alabama was overwhelmed. What's crazy is how prepared they looked to start last week's game. And, you would think, okay, it was the perfect trap game, even though I thought because it was the perfect trap game and there was such an emphasis on it that it wouldn't be a trap game. If it was an 11 a.m. kickoff, it's early, you're like, okay. But I mean, just the timing of it being a 3:15 kickoff, the fact that everybody was talking about it being a trap game. I honestly did not think that they would come out. I wouldn't say that I didn't think they wouldn't come out flat, but I certainly did not think that they would come out and play this poorly for 4 quarters. And I think a lot of Alabama fans who have been watching or just watched, they were watching the same thing we were. And I mean, for a majority of it, you're like, it was the same feeling as Louisiana Monroe. I can remember I was in high school, when that happened. And I think I was 17 years old. And even as the game ended, I remember thinking like, wait, they put more time back on the clock, right? Like Alabama's really not going to lose this game. This feels the same way. I throughout this entire game, I never really, it's like, man, this is so bad. It's not good football. But Alabama will figure it out eventually, and they'll get the job done, and they didn't. I mean, and credit Vanderbilt for some of that, but a lot of it's just, I mean, Kane Womack, man, he's set in his ways. He's going to play how he's going to play that single high safety. And granted, against this style of offense, I think there's probably the right way to go, but just very minimal adjustments once again defensively, and it absolutely killed Alabama.
Yep. Guys, we're going to take your calls eventually on the show. We're going to hear from Kalen DeBoer, which I can't wait. I mean, as soon as he pops into his press conference, we'll go to Nashville for that, and we'll bring on our friend Jim Dunaway from the next round and get his opinion. Jim, you've been around a long time, just like me. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this, to be honest with you.
I just tweeted. I've lived through listening on radio the 1972 loss to Auburn. On the radio the 1980 loss in Starkville. 2012, I was in the stadium for Johnny Manziel. Every one of those games, I left still thinking Alabama was the better football team and the better coach team. I thought a lot of fluky things happened in those games, and there was fluke in this game, but I just think Vandy played better than Alabama today. Vandy was more physical than Alabama today. Vandy was better coached than Alabama was today. I mean, over and over again, it seemed like the same sequencing of plays, the inability to stop the run in between the hash marks early in the game, the inability to make tackles when they catch a ball in the flat and you can't stop them 3 yards from the yard marker to force a fourth down. They fight through a tackle and get a first down. They were 12 of 18.
That is
12 of 18 on third down and 1-1 on fourth downs against an Alabama team that was number 1 in the country. And, you said here the interception early was a fluke.
Yes.
After that, show me the flukes. It was the guys in the black jerseys playing just a tad bit harder on every play than the guys in the white jerseys. They were a little bit more physical than the Bama guys in the trenches. And they schemed it up, man. They schemed it up and took it to them today. 40-35. Who would have ever thought that?
42 minutes of time of possession. That is insane. I mean, just and this team, this Vanderbilt team, it followed its quarterback. I mean, he plays fearless. He plays aggressive. And that's the kind of, like Kentucky against Georgia a few weeks ago. You're down there. I know it's 4th and 7, but if you're going to pull off these massive upsets, you got to take some risk. And Vanderbilt, without hesitation, they go for it. I understand it's 4th and a much shorter, but Alabama did force Diego, Pavia to go to his third read on that play, but just the vertical shot. They were constantly answering everything Alabama had, and you give Alabama credit for coming back to an extent from how the game started, but just, Vanderbilt answered blow for blow. It just, I'm blown away.
Yep. I'm looking at this time of possession, which I think you guys already talked about, 39 minutes and 22 seconds to 17:52. Alabama's best players are on offense, and they were only on the field for 17 minutes, barely a quarter of the game.
This has got it at Stats Broadcast has it at 42-18.
Okay.
But I don't know.
I'm at
either way,
ESPN.com, so you've got the fancier setup than I do.
Well, I will say,
I see it now. I see it's updated now. 42:08 to 17:52.
It's just I kind of just wish I wouldn't have said nothing and we left at what you said. It sounded bad enough with what you said, but
yep.
What are you thinking, Mick? We're at what point where you're like they're in really, really big trouble?
The fumble. Milrow gets blindsided. Pritchett just absolutely falls down, and the guy runs right by him, and Milrow had no chance. He was Milrow was taking the team down the field, and he gets smoked. And don't tell me that he held the ball too long. That guy was back there in the blink of an eye. Pritchett didn't even touch him. He whiffed on him, and the guy ran right by him. You got to protect your quarterback. Well, Milrow had a bad game on top of that, but that play right there wasn't his fault.
You go back and watch.
That was the one, though.
That was the most disappointing part of that is after he had gotten beat and he landed flat, he just turned and just stayed where he was at in the position he was in and just watched Milrow get sacked. And it's like at that point, you probably don't think he's going to lose the football. But maybe it's just the way I played back in the day. But if I made a mistake, I was busting my ass trying to make up for it. It just that was kind of a perfect representation for the entire day. And that's a play Vanderbilt made. They made a lot of plays today. You got to give them a lot of credit.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. I know you guys are chomping at the bit to call in. Here's the call-in number. And again, as soon as Kalen DeBoer comes onto the stage, we're going to stop what we're doing. We're going to put you on pause, and we're going to get to Kalen DeBoer. So let's and guys, there's a ton of you that want to talk. Please just make your point because you can't hear these guys talk back to you. So you got to just kind of nail it and roll, and then we'll get to your points so that you can can talk about this. But a tough loss I mean, I don't even know how to even put this. Who's this and where you calling from?
Hey, Nick, it's Stan from LA.
Hey, what's up, man?
Horrible loss.
I know.
Yeah, well, shocked. How about that? How about Vandy dog dragging us on our defense all the way down the field all days long? They put a clinic on us. These boys ought to stop doing these doggone podcasts during the middle of the week and acting like stars and stuff like that, and focus on playing some darn football. This is embarrassing. I hope they learn their lesson, because this is unacceptable. Period.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I mean, and look, this is a learning experience for Coach DeBoer too. I mean, this is where Nick Saban was fantastic. I mean, we're not at practice and we don't know how it went, but Jake Coker told us, and he said it a bunch on Elephant in the Room, that when they had games like this, Saban was, I mean, just a bear on those guys at practice. Nothing was ever done right. He was so focused on the details, and even if you did it right, it wasn't right. And that's why he didn't have any of these games after Louisiana Monroe. But this isn't a bad Vandy team. And I said that all week here. These guys can run the ball. You guys see it. The quarterback's really good, man. I mean, he's that guy that has a chip on his shoulder because nobody thought he could play, and he can play. And anybody that's been in sports knows this type of guy. I have respect for him. I mean, why can't you? You can't not, right?
No, not at all.
He plays all day long. You got to give him credit for it. He pulled a Garcia out on us, and yes, I thought of the Louisiana Monroe game on this one. I'm like, this is great, So yeah, learning lesson. That's all I can say. It's a horrible thing. Now I got to listen to everybody, all week long at work, rub my face in it. But hey, that goes with the territory, I reckon. So,
yeah, man. Well, thanks for the call. Roll Tide, brother. Keep your head up. That's all you can do. Get a stiff drink. All right.
Hey. Yeah, so much for the victory cigar. I'll just go grab a person.
What I will say about this is, it's
thanks,
going to be
brother. Roll Tide.
Later, y'all.
It's going to be perceived. How it's going to be perceived, and there's really no way around that. Like, because it is mostly accurate. But I say this Vanderbilt team is kind of like, Alabama under Nick Saban. You always saw them figure out a way to win these types of games. They would struggle against Arkansas. They'd struggle against the Auburns when they weren't very good. Now, a lot of those are like in Jordan-Hare. It's a rivalry game. It's a lot more understandable. But from a talent level perspective, I would put Vanderbilt with the way they play today. And like I said, it's their quarterback that is the main driver of this. But I would probably put them in a lot of those categories, and especially with the way they played. And as impressed as I was with Alabama's coaching staff last week, couldn't be more polar opposite this week, because they just felt very underprepared. I think they thought they were going to handle Vanderbilt. I think they came in with a very vanilla game plan, which is, and you never really saw them recover from that. And I mean, even Kalen DeBoer towards the end of the game, and you want him to be an even-keeled head coach, and I get it, but they kind of interviewed him towards the end, and he was like, "We're fine. They're still on the 40-yard line." It was when they were about to get in field goal range, and then they go down there, they score a touchdown, then your defense, can't get off the field. But it's just. It was one of those days for Alabama, and you didn't have anybody. You had guys try, and I give Ron Williams a lot of credit. He did not play a perfect game, but he showed a lot of maturity on that field that a lot of other guys, like he stepped up and he made plays when he needed to. There was times where Vanderbilt players were jawing at him and he didn't get into it. He got drilled on the sidelines, and he looked like he was going to stay down for a second, but I don't think he wanted to show Vanderbilt any pain, and he immediately hopped up and ran back to the huddle. That kid, he really showed me something handling the adversity today that I don't think everybody on this team did.
I agree with you 100%, Clint. And I'm like you. Coming off last week, I thought everything was so positive on the game plan and how this staff prepared. And then this game plan did not look like they had prepared for this, or if so, they got really fooled and Vandy had saved something and pulled something out. We'll wait to hear from DeBoer coming up here in a second. But now I look ahead. Last week it felt like, okay, how can Alabama not be a playoff team at this point? How can they not be possibly the SEC champions? They're number one in the country again. South Carolina, we'll see what they're able to do. Then Tennessee, Missouri, LSU, Oklahoma, who can run the football, Auburn, who will throw that trickeration, triple option stuff at you sometimes too with Peyton Thorne. We saw it at Jordan-Hare last year. I mean, is there a game you feel absolutely comfortable with other than Mercer after what you just watched? I don't.
I mean, Mick, it's a no for me. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know what to say.
I
Nick,
mean,
what do you think?
you could tell me, Mick. You could tell me 11-1.
Yeah,
Or
look,
you
it's
could,
an
or
anomaly,
you could,
man.
or you could tell me 8-4.
This is an anomaly. I mean, they'll be back on track next week. They're still the team that beat Georgia, but this is why they call them trap games, guys. I mean, you go into this game, and you're thinking we just beat Georgia. You're a little bit banged up physically. There's 24,000 people in that crappy stadium they have. We got more fans than them, and you get a couple bad breaks early, and you're not prepared. And I thought the defense was terrible today. Let's go back to the phone lines again. And when we get you on, make your point, and then we'll chew on it, guys. But thanks for being part of the show. Who's this and where you calling from?
Hey, this is Justin from Birmingham. Can you hear me?
Yeah, what's up?
All right, look, man, I got everybody on here. Let me say this. It's not a trap game if everybody says that it's a trap game, all right? The fact is we went in there and we got our asses beat. We got out-coached. We got better players, but it don't matter. Their players were in better spots the whole entire game. And we can blame penalties. We can blame anything. But we got special teams coordinators making over $1 million a year. They got one job. All right? Mistake after mistake, all right? And then when we cut it to 9 at the end of the half, and we could have went for 2 to make it a 1-score game. I got no problem when we don't chase points right there, right? But then when we come out, Vandy gets the ball, we start taking timeouts and stuff like we're going to be aggressive. All right? We're lucky Vandy didn't score right there and blow us out of the field. All right? And Jalen Milroe, look, I've been an adamant Jalen Milroe supporter, but the fact is he is selfish. There were at least 5 RPOs in that game where he should have handed it off. And he did not. He kept it, and he got stuck. Milroe is selfish. We got out-coached, and it wasn't a trap game. If everybody is dumping 100 rat traps from Dollar General at the start of the week, it's not a trap game. The fact is they were drinking their own Kool-Aid all week, and we went in there and we got our asses whipped by Vandy, and it is unacceptable. Unacceptable, guys.
Justin, thanks for the call, brother. I'm not arguing on that. It's unacceptable.
Yeah. I got to say, just 7 runs.
Yeah, man, roll tide, man.
Roll Tide,
Just
brother.
7 runs. That off my chest. That was a hard watch right there. Roll tide,
Roll
guys.
Tide,
I
thank
get
you.
it. We
just
totally
7 runs for Jalen Milroe.
I was going to say the same thing, Jim.
Yeah,
Big.
just 7 runs for. He should have. If there's anything you're going to fault Jalen Milroe for, is that he didn't take the game over, seeing that it was falling apart. But they averaged 2 points per minute that they were on the field. It's not the offense; it's the freaking defense that lost you this football.
Yeah.
And there were. I know what he's talking about on a couple. I didn't see 5, but I saw at least probably 2. And I mean, maybe I go back and I see 5, but there was 2 where it's like that looked like a give to me. So I understand the frustrations on that. And sometimes when we're really emotional, sometimes things get magnified a little bit. I don't know if I will fully come on this show tomorrow, and when I go back and watch, and I'll say, actually, he was completely right. If I do find that to be the case, but I think that it feels like with this coaching staff, the offense, one thing we said coming in is they understand it's the SEC, and they understand that they got 2 really good running backs, and you really got an offensive line that's more set up to be a mauling type of offensive line. Now, it's not going to be their scheme, but you're probably DeBoer is going to run the football in the SEC. There's way too much talent in that running back room not to. And what we've seen is, like, even when they run the football, it feels like it's all like, okay, we got that box checked, we ran it, now we can go back to throwing it like we really want to do. And that I think actually Milroe, if he had not shown the growth that he has, that would be a very poor way to go about it. But he has shown a lot of growth, and he can do that more, but he's still not Michael Penix Jr. And you're giving him the option of, when you do that a lot, it's like, hey, do some of that, unscripted stuff, go off script, take off, use your legs, be that dynamic player. So some of that's being mixed into it, but it feels like that when you watch it, this isn't Washington, right? You don't have the personnel that you had at Washington. You got talent at Washington and you got talent here, but it's different. And I still think there's some growing pains. We need to be talking about the defense way more than we are. I mean, I'm just saying, as far as the offensive stuff, a lot of their issues right now feels like there's kind of some growing pains there.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go back to the phone lines again. And thank you guys for calling and waiting on hold. And we'll get to you as you hang out with us. Show is brought to you by mybookie.ag. Use the promo code next round to double your initial deposit. All right. Back to the phone lines again. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, Mick, it's Ice, man.
Ice, what's up, brother? Not the game we were hoping for.
No, not at all. I mean, I wouldn't have pictured Alabama losing this game. I'll say that, but I did have a feeling that Vanderbilt was going to be able to put up some points. And the reason why is because this defense is still very young. There's a lot of new pieces and young guys on that defense, and I mean, coming off of a win against Georgia like that, I just felt like that they were just going to come into this game kind of sleepwalking, and they did. I mean, I was looking at the stats for offense. Could it have been better? Yes. But, I mean, Villanova still threw for over 300 yards. Ryan Williams was 82 yards receiving? And, I mean, he had that amazing catch. I mean, I feel like this offense did what they had to do, but they just didn't get enough time on the field. I mean, Vanderbilt controlled the ball the entire game, and it's really frustrating because, I mean, I hate to say this, but this defense looked worse than one of Pete Golding's defenses. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's just a double-edged sword of having a young defense, you know? I mean, I'm hopeful for next year and see what they look like. Here's the hoping that Tennessee loses to Arkansas. That way they can't be too hard on us, right?
Yeah.
I
Hey, thanks,
respect
Ice.
that. I
Appreciate
respect
it, brother.
All right.
Hey,
Roll
No
Tide.
problem. Have a good night. Roll Tide.
What I will say, just real quick, is this is part of the triple option offense, right? There's a reason it's called like the triple option, and it's not like a true triple option, but it kind of is. The option comes into play based off of what the defense gives you, right? So you're always gonna, at least if you're not executing and not every single player on defense is doing his job playing assignment football, they're gonna make you wrong. You know, if you run, if it looks like a zone read, but really it's a Jalen Milroe keeper all the way. I mean, you know, if the defense guesses right, they're gonna look right. But if it's an actual true option play, and they're going to see what you're doing, and they're going to play off of that, and they're going to make you look wrong a lot. And that's the biggest problem with this defense is you don't have 11 guys playing assignment football consistently enough. And Vanderbilt was just picking apart the guys, you know, the holes that were being made. Vanderbilt was taking full advantage, and that's something that Alabama's got to get fixed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, very good point.
Is there any concern from you two and our callers and viewers about just this style of defense? Because coming into the season, my concern with the 3-3-5 swarm was a team's ability to run the football down Alabama's throat. And I wanted to see, and then Georgia threw the ball a lot in that game. I thought they should have probably run the ball more, which I thought played into Alabama, and they did such a good job defensively, especially in the first half, and Beck had a bad game. But I was concerned, not about Vandy, but I was concerned coming into this season. I really thought Georgia would do it, of doing what Vandy did to Alabama tonight. Do you guys have any of that concern?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. It's very similar to Florida State's defense. And Florida State's defense has been really bad when it comes to run defense over the last few years since they brought in Mike Norvell. So that was definitely a concern. Here, I looked at the group up front, and you see like the Tim Keenans and the Tim Smiths, and it's like, hey, from a schematic standpoint, I think some of those guys, just the way they play football and the way they can be rocks inside, you know, run defense starts inside out. I thought they'd be able to mask some of those issues, but it's not. The run fits aren't there consistently enough right now. And I don't know if that's a transitional thing. Like, I still don't think that Wolf is overly comfortable. Russaw was pretty comfortable with it. Jahad Campbell was obviously comfortable with it. We'll go to Kalen DeBoer.
All right, let me get this thing queued up.
A week long. I really do think our guys prepared hard. You know, there's some things that we're going to look back on tomorrow and, you know, be really frustrated about. You know, like talking what ifs, and that's going to be the situation we're going to be dealing with tomorrow. But you know, the guys in the locker room just talked about, you know, there is only one option: is to move forward, to get back to work. I feel we got a great football team. We weren't at our best today, and you know, we're going to find out, you know, really, you know, how much we care about each other and what it looks like moving forward. So, you know, we've been tested in different ways. Really, a lot of the games here this season, and this is a different type of test for us now in our response.
Thanks, Coach. Nick, why don't you go start?
Yeah, third down, I think they were 12 for 18. What do you think led to you guys having issues just getting off the field defensively?
Yeah, I mean, the quarterback did a nice job creating, and we got to continue. We got to do a better job of just being disciplined. Do our job, and he keeps things alive with his feet. Whether it was third down or just other downs, whether they converted some third and longs. I think those are the frustrating ones, and so just great execution on their part. Obviously, we expect to, do good on third down too, because I mean, we've done great things on third down. It's been more fourth down. So, guys certainly are frustrated about that, and we'll look at it and understand that they attacked us in a few different ways. But tip the hat to them. I mean, made the throws, made the catches they needed to, and got themselves in some manageable third downs early in the game. I think it was 6 for 7 or so right away. And so, they just continued to wear on us, stayed on the football field. I see the time of possession, and that, just continues to wear on your defense when you're out there that long.
Katie?
After you scored to cut it to 5, how much consideration was given into doing an onside kick, or kind of what was the process there?
Yeah, no, a lot of consideration, just understand this, everything with the timeouts and the 2-minute warning and all that, just really felt we were going to be in a good spot. Even if they got one first down, depending on when that was, we would still be able to have a good amount of time to move down the field. I don't think it was a matter of us being able to find guys and execute and get the ball down, and score offensively. So it was just a matter of getting the ball back. So obviously when it doesn't go the way you want, you always look back and second guess, maybe wish you tried to onside kick it, but I felt good about the decision at the time. And honestly, I still do right now.
Chase?
Near the end of the first quarter, Vanderbilt punts. You guys have the substitution penalty with a couple of number 2s on the field. They get a first down and end up scoring a touchdown. How damaging was that sequence? Yeah,
it's a team. We win as a team, we lose a team. That's all of us. And we have communication and ways of making sure we're all on the same page, and just, what we called requiring certain guys to be on the field didn't get circulated around to everyone. I mean, we're well aware of that situation, and just got to do a better job. That's, it's like I said, we win as a team and we lose a team, and those are the things that really hurt you, because I think they kept the drive alive and then ended up scoring a touchdown, and there's just that hump that we couldn't quite get over through a lot of the game, and that one is an early one.
Left side, Mike.
Malachi was pretty heated at the end of the game. What was his message in the locker room? What was his demeanor in the locker room?
Yeah, he was much better when he got in the locker room. The guy pours everything into what he does, doesn't make it okay, and we want to, be first class in everything we do. And there's a lot of guys that are really frustrated. So, I think the key is that we turn that frustration into positives moving forward, and make sure we remember what we feel here tonight, and remember that tomorrow when we show up, and Tuesday and Wednesday, and all season long. And so Malachi, I'm 100% confident he will do that. He's the frustration out there again comes from the work that he puts in, the belief he puts in. There's not a guy that there's a couple of guys that were critical from day one when I got here that put their foot down and believed in this place, and he's certainly one of them. And we are going to continue to believe in him. And, he leaves it out on the football field, not just in every game, but every day when we're working out and practicing. He's very vocal. And we need him to continue to be that way.
Front right, Tony.
Speaking of Malachi, though, was Kane Womack trying to take him out of the game at one point? It seemed like he put in Bray Hubbard and then he wouldn't leave the field. How do you approach that situation?
I'm not sure. When was this?
At the very end, it seemed like Bray Hubbard
yeah.
into the field, and then Malachi wouldn't leave.
Yeah, I mean, as long as he's not going to get another penalty. I mean, I think it was the penalty on him. I guess I was looking at something else, and so I actually thought it was someone up front that got the penalty, and so just as that communication. Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming that's what was happening there.
I guess, like, if he is refusing to leave, is there a way that you approach that?
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about it if that's what was going on there.
All right, Colin.
Talk about time of
possession and those moments. I'm curious about what kind of a message. It seems like something that's happened over the course of these past few games. You've seen moments of whether it's time of possession, whether it's those long drives, Vanderbilt don't break defense. Is that something that's you feel has been consistent and kind of just followed up under the pressure here against this offense?
Yeah, I think it's happened in different ways, right? It happened last week when there was that desperation for them to continue to go for it on fourth down. We were doing a good job on third down. This was a little different scenario. They just did a nice job on third down. I really don't feel like they would have probably been pressing as much, especially given the score, letting their defense go out there and do their thing. That's what they've done through, the first games that they've played is played team football, played field position. I think they'd only gone for it 3 times, I think, all year going into today. So, we needed to get off the field on third down. And, again, there's things in all phases that we can do better. We need to take care of the football. We need to get off the field on third down. And so, we're going to own it as a team, and we're going to, keep moving forward.
All right, last 2 questions. Wyatt on the left back.
Right before that last touchdown drive, you were talking with Jalen Miller during the timeout. What were you saying to him in that moment?
Are you talking about the one before we scored?
Yes, sir.
We go through 2-minute drill, every week. And, I just keep reminding him of all the scenarios. And that was something I know he was asking a lot about this week when he and I were meeting. And I just reminded him that, most 2-minute drills, it isn't about the clock. It's about running out of downs. And as much as he's going to want to push the ball down the field, and he needs to feel that he can do that because we were making plays and we were getting guys open. He needed to make sure he always understood the down and distance situation and continued to make sure we were getting first downs, 5 minutes to go or so. So it was about that and getting first downs and then leading to a score. And I thought he did a great job. I thought, he managed it, got us down there. We got the fourth down. We scored a touchdown.
Finish up with Charlie. Right.
Were you at all surprised by what Vanderbilt did offensively? And regardless, how do you guys feel like you adjusted to it?
Yeah. No, I mean, that's their style. That's what they've been doing. They've been controlling it. They've been making it close. They're going to run the clock down. They're going to shorten the game. We knew that was going to be the case. We talked about it all week long, that's, Coach Lee. And that's why all week I said he's done a great job of playing team football. And that's exactly what they did, I think, it come down to be assignment sound, and, they put you in isolated spots where one guy's got to get the ball carrier down and, they're just slippery enough, especially when the quarterback, just being able to, make people miss. And he's a tough kid and, did a nice job when you got, kind of running to him. They threw just enough play action and wrinkles at you to get you on the other spots with the other skill that was around him. That fourth down was probably the tough one. The touchdown that they had, just I thought we had a guy there and just throwing it up in the air and kind of spinning around. But that's what you do. It's fourth down. You throw it up when everything seems covered. And hats off to them. They made a play.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
All right, there you go. Kalen DeBoer. Your thoughts, Clint, on Kalen DeBoer, and then we're going to take some more calls. And Jim may pop back on with us. He's out of here for right now. But thank you guys for hanging out with us here. And, obviously this is one of those nights that, as Alabama fans will probably want to forget, but you won't. I mean, that Alabama lost to Vanderbilt 41-34. And the first time ever Vanderbilt's beaten a top 5 team. And it's, obviously Bama had beaten Vandy 23 straight games, and they'd never, they've only lost to an unranked team as the number 1 team now 4 times. I mean, a lot of that kind of stuff goes into this, but Clint, your thoughts on that. And then I'm going back to the phone lines.
Yeah. I mean, part of me thought the onside kick should have happened. At that point, you weren't stopping them at all. I thought if you do that, then they probably play for field goal. And they just don't have enough room, like as much room as far as you get, you're either going to give up a touchdown and the game's going to be over, which if you punt it to them and they run clock and then the game's going to be over anyways, or if they do kind of get in the conservative mindset, try to go up not only just a touchdown, but 8 points where you got to score a touchdown and get the 2-point conversion. I thought maybe they would Vanderbilt would kind of settle for that. It's sad that you're in that mindset at that point, that you're talking about, you know what, just onside kick it, let them get down in field goal range. Hopefully they just take that and don't try to score a touchdown, and then maybe you might have a chance. That's a real rough spot to be in, Nick, when you're having those kind of thoughts. But I thought that was the move, because exactly what ended up happening is exactly what, not just me, but I'm pretty sure anybody that was watching felt pretty confident that that is exactly the way that the game was going to end as soon as they kicked off the football.
900 of you guys watching. If you're pissed off about the outcome, give us a thumbs up, because we're pretty pissed off with you right now. Let's go to the phone lines and talk about this thing some more. Who's this and where you calling from?
Hey, Mick, it's Adam calling from Georgia. How's it going?
Adam, what's up, brother?
Well, it's kind of sad, but let's make 3 quick points and I'll get off so you can get to the other callers. The first thing I want to say is I think what we lost to today was success. We had a lot of success last week, and you know what? Success can be the biggest enemy to a team because it makes them complacent and they start believing their own BS. And you know what? Then you don't have that hungry mindset that you had against a team like Georgia. Number 2, this wasn't on Milroe. This was on the defense. Number 3, you cannot rely on Milroe and Williams to carry an entire team. You need balance on both sides of the ball. Now, we're lucky that we have a 12-team playoff and can recover from this, but we need to have that hungry mindset that we had before Georgia and not let success lead to the type of complacency that was on display today. And the last thing I'll say is my girlfriend Grace wanted to say hi to you and tell you that she's can't wait to meet you at Innisfree because she's got a present for you. She's an artist and she painted something for you, and she wanted to make sure I told you that. She's at work right now, so
awesome.
Thanks for taking my call and look forward to meeting you someday.
Hey, thanks, man. Looking forward to meeting you too. We'll be at Innisfree this week to record the tailgate show on Friday, and it was really fun seeing a lot of you guys in Nashville at Live Oak. We'll be at Coastal when Alabama plays Tennessee that Friday recording, so come by and see us. That's Jay Coker, me. Clint was there Friday in Nashville. It was pretty fun. So we didn't expect this, Clint, but I kept warning everybody, man. I felt like I was like screaming, like this, like, hey, man, these guys could beat us. And I didn't think they would. I mean, look, I'm not a soothsayer, but man, I just knew this wasn't your normal Vanderbilt team.
Well, one thing I'm always going to do is I'm always going to own when I'm wrong. And I mean, you really couldn't have been more wrong from last week. Like, I wasn't concerned at all exiting last week. And a lot of people were saying you need to be. And just the way that game played out, it was not, it was to a lot of people now, it's like the signs were obviously there, and they were. But in my head, which is what I do, I go through and like, I'm not going to try to justify any of this, tonight, because there's nothing to justify. Last week, the 4th down stuffs, they were winning in a typical fashion. Like, they were winning on the first 3 downs, which is what you're going to want to do if you want to win football games against good teams. And you're typically not going to be playing with a 4-touchdown lead against really good football teams. So it felt like an anomaly. But I mean, when you watch today, I mean, I think that to me, it was any concerns that probably should have come from last week's game. They didn't pay any attention to it either. And, that, I mean, I don't know how much any of them's watching this show. Maybe they watch me and they're like, oh, yeah, we must be good. Now, that's not a good thing. If you're taking what the media is saying and letting that dictate how you approach things, that's probably not the right mindset to have. But, I mean, I absolutely want to own the fact that the second half didn't concern me last week, and it definitely should have. And here's the thing. Moving forward, this doesn't have to end Alabama. Like, this is last week's win and this week's loss is wild, because everybody's saying that the regular season doesn't mean anything anymore. And from the grand scheme of things, it does, or excuse me, it doesn't. Like, you can lose a game like this and still make it to the college football playoff if you handle your business moving forward. Whether you do or don't remains to be seen, but it feels like it still really matters. Really, really matters. Like, people are upset, and they should be. So, yeah, that's a rough one.
All right, back to the phone lines again. Talking Bama and Vandy. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
Hey, guys, this is Tommy in Birmingham.
What's up, Tommy?
Well, I tell you, guys, this is the most disgusting display I've ever seen. And I'm telling you now, I don't care. I don't give a damn how much Vanderbilt has improved. They should never be able to beat an Alabama team of this caliber.
Yeah.
Do y'all not agree?
I agree.
Completely agree. Absolutely.
Well, and listen, this coming week, the first thing these players and coaches need to be asked, and they owe it to everybody in the Alabama fandom, an answer is, how does it feel to be the laughing stock of the damn nation? I mean, I'm serious. I've never seen a defense that cannot get off the field on third down. I know they're young, but I'm telling you, I just think a lot of these players, football is maybe second. First is being social media darlings, fashionistas, and hairdo queens. They'll be all over social media this week, just like always. And it's just disgusting. And that's really all I got to say. Hopefully, roll tide.
Hey, roll tide, Tommy. Thank
Thanks.
you, man. Appreciate you, brother. And look, I'm not going to disagree with that. I mean, the Alabama should never lose to Vandy. I mean, they've got a stadium that looks like a high school stadium. Honestly, there's probably nicer high school stadiums. Now, they are getting renovations done. I mean, I was there today looking at it, but I mean, it's still, I mean, it just looking at their small student section and the amount of NIL money they have, and we're number one team, and we got a lot of great players, but they played harder today. They wanted it today more than Alabama. They made it happen more than Alabama today, and that's why they won today, to me, Clint.
Well, and I'll say this: the bottom line is if you're winning, no one cares about a lot of stuff. The second you're not winning, people care about a lot. They care about TikToks. They care about what else was brought up. Was it a hairdo or something? I don't know. But point is, I mean, that's just kind of part of it, I guess. And I mean, that's the era that we live in now. I think that's going to be a problem everywhere. But it's just the leadership of this team. It needs to step up from here, because this season can go in two very different directions. Everybody last year after the Texas game, and I understand Texas is way different than Vanderbilt on a completely different, I understand that. But everyone still thought, regardless of that being a much better opponent, 6-6 is coming, 7-5 is coming. This team's terrible. And they end up making it to the playoffs. Now it's even easier to get into the playoffs. So the season doesn't have to be over. But the leadership of this team, what happens with Alabama right now moving forward is going to, I mean, and I mean moving forward over this next week, is going to tell us a lot about this team. It can come together and get stuff right because it's still really talented, or, it can turn into a multi-loss season.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just looking at this right here. 12 of 18 on third downs for Vanderbilt. I mean, that's
insane.
Awful.
I mean, 42 minutes of time of possessions.
Whoa.
Absurd.
That's just bad. But you know what it reminded me of? That, shit through a tin horn game, when Alabama played, who was that? South Georgia
Georgia
Southern,
State.
Georgia
State. Yeah. Georgia Southern.
And they couldn't stop them, and it just kind of felt like that one to me today. All right, let's go back to the phone lines again. You guys jump in. Tell me what you think. Who's this and where are you calling from? You there? There you
Yeah,
are.
I'm here.
Who's this and where are you calling from?
It's Sneaky Pete from Orange Beach.
Well, what's up? What's up, Pete?
What's up? I'm just sitting here, man, down in Orange Beach, and all I want to say is we had guys, all week at practice showing up to the facility, handing out new chains, and we celebrated the Georgia win really up until Friday. And it's just embarrassing to watch the mentality change that has happened in the program. Our coach is wearing a T-shirt on the sidelines.
That was different.
We just lost to a quarterback named Diego, and we lost to the Vanderbilt Commodores. That's not anything we should ever have to say as Alabama fans. And it's embarrassing. I just sat here with 12 guys I graduated from the University of Alabama with, and we just watched that shit happen on national television. I can't believe it.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. It's hard. It is hard to kind of go, sit here. And just at some point, I thought someone's going to make a damn play on defense.
I did
and
too.
I was wrong.
They ran the same pass. They rolled right and threw into the flat at least 15 times, and we never once had a man over there in the flats covering anybody.
Yeah. Yep. And it felt like Mike DeBoer's defense against Tennessee back when they had Jason Witten. Remember that? They just kept rolling him out in Tuscaloosa. I'll never forget it. I was on the sideline and they kept rolling him out. We're like, is anyone ever going to cover this guy? You know?
Oh yeah.
And
oh yeah. I mean, we made Diego Pavia look like Peyton Manning.
Hey, man, he's good though. You know,
he's not that good
for what he is.
Hey, well, we've said this about a lot of quarterbacks, though. I mean, you know, Zach Calzada, Steven Garcia, like that. Like this isn't really that side of it's nothing really new. We've seen Alabama's defense make very subpar quarterbacks.
I mean, that right there was embarrassing.
Yeah,
and we still got a long way to go going into Knoxville, going to Norman. It's not going to be easy.
No. Well, look, man, Sneaky Pete down there in Orange Beach. Come by and see us. The tailgate show will be at Coastal 2 weeks on Friday to record Jay Coker and me. So come by and say hi to us 1 to 3.
Yes, sir.
Roll Tide, brother. Thank you.
All righty.
See you now.
Roll Tide, buddy.
All right, Clint, what's that?
But were you about to do something?
Well, I was going to go back to the phone lines, but yeah, finish your thought there. And I'll
I mean, and I would like to get people in the comments because I could be way off on this or way wrong, and I probably am. But the amount of trash talking, like Ron Williams didn't really participate that I noticed, but the amount of trash talk coming from Alabama's side, you know, it always seemed like Nick Saban would jump them pretty hard when they would do stuff like that. And maybe someone's going to point to like a game or several games where it's like, dude, they were running their mouths in this game. Like, what are you talking about? Just throughout the game, though, I was like, man, guys were jawing hard after plays from Alabama side. And I just, and granted, I'm normally not paying attention to that kind of stuff. You know, I'm writing notes or whatever. So can you recall Nick Saban defenses, or really just Nick Saban teams, excuse me, being so kind of mouthy with the other team?
No, well, but I mean, there was some talking going on, but you know what? I mean, they were a pretty disciplined group. Man, I don't know. Let me get to these super chats, and then I'm going back to the phone lines again. Okay, here's an Auburn fan. James, thanks for the $5. I know I'm an Auburn fan. Sounds like I'm making fun of Alabama, and I'm not. Pavia is like that. I mean, remember last year Auburn lost to him when he was at New Mexico, and I watched the game against him in Missouri, and that's why I kept saying that I thought that they had a chance in the football game. You know, he's a good athlete. He's not going to be an NFL player, but he's a great college player. I mean, just on a team with, no superstars anywhere compared to what Alabama has, and he just gets the ball out everywhere. He's just kind of like a poor man Steph Curry in basketball, where he's just able to run enough and he can throw it enough, and and because of that, beat Alabama, and Vanderbilt just got the biggest win, and then the coach is going to make a lot of money off of this, and he probably won't be there when they fix the stadium up. I mean, it really is a huge win for Vanderbilt, and to say that I'm upset would be an understatement. But what the hell are you going to do? Trey, thank you for the super chat. I wouldn't overreact. I'd be interested to see the breakdown of the offensive production since Kendrick Law's injury. Yeah, you know what? It does hurt not having him in there. Things changed from that point on in the GA game, and the morale of the team has changed a lot too. Yeah, I mean, and that's a good point, man. I mean, you're not talking about Law, and then Prentice got hit in the head, and I think he got a concussion. It looked like to me, and nobody asked DeBoer that in the post game, but we lost him, and it really started to eliminate the options for Milroe to throw the ball to. And I mean, but that's not the defense to me, but definitely would have helped Alabama on offense.
Well, first of all, I appreciate you, Trey. Trey's a good friend from back home. What I will say is 11 combined carries for Justice Haynes and Jam Miller. Like, and how many weeks have we been having this conversation? And that's the number one thing to me. That, and granted, you can see some of the Justice Haynes stuff. I don't really know what's fully going on with him. I'll go back and watch the film, and some of that stuff, you see it one way, and then you go back and watch, and you're like, really, it's the offensive line. But I feel like some of this is, Justice, and I can't really figure it out. Obviously, he's making plays in practice and stuff. I mean, he started every single game this year, despite the fact that I think Jam Miller's kind of been outplaying him, and Justice is the younger player of the two. So you would think that would be the reverse. But I mean, there's no excuse for your running backs. Like, I thought that's what Alabama was going to do. Missouri ran for 200 yards. One of their running backs ran for 199 yards against Vanderbilt last week. And I thought they're going to establish a run game. They're going to play off of that. They're going to take some vertical shots when Vanderbilt starts bringing, an extra player into the box. And it didn't happen. It didn't happen at all. And that's probably the most shocking part to me, is for whatever reason, and granted that they're getting the running backs involved as an extension of the run game with like the short passes, like they were talking about it during the broadcast. A lot of his primary reads, is the running back, and then they'll go from there. So that's good, but just, you got to get these guys more carries, man. It's too good of a room not to.
All right, back to the phone lines again. Let's talk about this, and thank all of you guys for hanging on. I'm going to get to every one of you, so just stick with us here. Who's this and where you calling from?
Hey, Mick, this is Sam from Alabama, man. How you doing?
Sam, good to hear your voice, but obviously not the result we were expecting today.
Yeah, man. Hey, blame me, man. It's my fault. Normally I have something to eat before the game or during the game. I ain't eat a damn thing, man. So I take the blame for the loss, bro. So
I respect that.
I'm beginning to understand why Nick Saban ran a very disciplined program. He didn't have all the accessibilities to the coaches and the players. I know it's good for the media, but I can understand why Saban ran a disciplined program. So I understand why he ran a disciplined defense too. So the idea of going for an onside kick or kicking it downfield, I thought about the onside kick, but I also thought about, what if our defense, we kick it downfield and our defense comes up with a stop. I think we may have had 2 or 3 timeouts left. I can't remember, plus the 2-minute warning. So I was thinking and hoping that if we kick it downfield and stop them, it may give us a shorter field to go down and score a touchdown. That's what my thoughts were. Okay. Offensively, man, like Dunaway said earlier, offense wasn't a problem. So anybody, call and want to, criticize offense, that wasn't the issue, man. We can score points. It just, we make mistakes on offense, true. The penalties, the turnovers, Jaden Roberts getting overextended. Like, I see why they put the other guy in. I heard that he did have a good week of practice. The right tackle, just whiffing on the guy. It's just the turnovers. They scored points off turnovers. They also scored after the defense got a stop, and we get a penalty, and they punt the ball. We get a penalty for having the same number on the field, and they go down and scored, I think, a touchdown on that drive. So it was our mistakes that really cost us this win, the turnovers and the penalties, but also the undisciplined defense that we have. I don't know. I look back at the spring game and seeing how our offense just ran the ball right down the field on our defense in the spring game. Then I attended one of the scrimmages this fall, and I saw how the offense was just gashing our defense. And we see it this season. Each and every game this year, our defense had issues of getting off the field. Whether it's Western Kentucky, I think they had like a 17-play drive. Wisconsin, I may have had a 22-play drive. South Florida had like a 15 to 17-play drive. I think Georgia had a 10 to 12-play drive. But we can't get off the field on third downs and fourth downs. That's our issue. We don't have an issue on offense. We can score points. We can put up points. We have the offense. We have the players. We have the offensive mind to put points on the board. We just got to stop kicking ourselves in the foot. And we need to play better defense, better sound, disciplined defense. I don't know who, maybe one of you all can tell me, who stood out to you on defense? I don't one that really stood out to me on defense. There was no eye discipline. We was our eyes was glued or fixated in the backfield. And it was just, they're going to have to come up with something else, man. And I don't know. I mean, hopefully they can get it together. Hopefully they can pull together and, fix these issues that they have. All right. But thanks, Mick and Clint. Y'all have a good rest of your night, man. And like I said, hopefully they can get everything together and roll tide.
Roll tide, man. Another great call, Sam. And if you guys are hanging out with us and you're not happy about this game, give us a thumbs up, man. Thank you for being here and hanging out with us through thick and thin on Cover Crimson. And what we want to tell you guys is covercrimson.com. Clint's going to break this game down. He's going to go through every single snap and have a lot of analysis on that. We'll do that during the week with our different shows that we have. So just know that we'll be here talking about this game. And I mean, this is a colossal upset, and it's also a game where Kalen DeBoer is going to have to look himself in the mirror and the team in the mirror, and they're going to have to figure out how to stay disciplined because this is a really tough league. I mean, last week Ole Miss lost to Kentucky. This week, we lose to Vandy. I mean, it's the SEC, and that's what it's all about with the transfer portal and NIL. Even a team, even a school like Vandy can go out there and get some guys. And if you don't take care of the business you got to take care of, they can beat you.
Well, here's what I'll say about the offense, because I agree that it should not be blamed for this loss. But what I will say is we talk about complimentary football all the time. And you see 42 minutes compared to 18 minutes with the time of possession. And the defense is responsible for a huge chunk of those 42 minutes. But the offense and the way that it is, the fact that you're not running the football, even though I think you need to be doing that more, and when you are, it's more of explosive runs with your quarterback. I just think that needs to be a bigger part of the offense, because when your defense is struggling to get off the field and they're struggling on third downs, you need to give them a break, sitting over on the sidelines for a little while, and you're just not seeing that enough. So I don't want anybody to make, to confuse that and think, okay, Clint's making excuses for the defense. He's putting more of this on the offense. I'm just telling you that it would really help out the defense that clearly needed all of the help that it could get today, because its side wasn't handling business at all. And so, you would like to see a little bit more of that from your offense, but just right now, getting anything going. And we talked about this after the Western Kentucky game, and we started seeing more, improvement on it against Wisconsin and stuff, but just the offense at times, it doesn't have those long sustaining drives that you need. And when they do, it's like I don't know, it feels very non-complimentary right now.
All right, back to the phone lines again, and we're going to get to all your calls. So let's get back at it. Who's this and where you calling from?
Hey, Mick, it's Phil in San Francisco.
Phil, what's up, brother, man? Good to hear from you, a friendly voice. This one did not turn out the way that any of us expected.
No, and it didn't. I'll have to be honest with you. I was ready to just let it go. I'm actually on my way to the Berkeley-Miami game. The woke versus the Coke is what they're calling it. I don't know, but I was ready to take my mind off of it. But I'm like, you know what? I always call in when we win, and I've got to be a good sport and call in when we lose too. So I've only got a couple of points before I pull into this college town they call Berkeley. It ain't Tuscaloosa, I'll tell you that, but I got to give them credit. But, man, it was a tough one. And sitting here listening to the callers and to y'all talk, it makes it even tougher. And, what's interesting is they kept pointing out when we were number one and Bama would lose to an unranked opponent, that A&M team isn't Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's a lot worse of a loss than that A&M team in 21. But some of the things that I'll point out, look, I've got to give credit where credit is due. And Pavia, I mean, the kid just wanted to be Manziel, and he was Manziel against us today. I mean, he just made magic happen, whether it was play calling or being adaptive to what he saw in front of him. Kudos to him. I mean, this kid's journey from, and I don't know that it was exactly called New Mexico Military Academy as a junior community college, and then New Mexico State, where, yes, he beat Liberty and Auburn. So now he's here in the SEC, and he beats Virginia Tech, and now leads his team against Bama and gets the big victory. We couldn't make the stops. It was crazy. And, you know, I've heard a few of the callers. I think actually everyone's talking about us being undisciplined on defense. I can tell you, even during Saban years, we've had teams during games be undisciplined. I'm shocked to actually look down at the stats and see that we only had 6 penalties, and I thought a couple of them maybe were a little bit suspect. I wasn't sure if I was a fan of the refs early on some of those calls. But the undiscipline obviously came with covering who came out of the backfield and letting those plays develop into something. So that was definitely frustrating and really hard to watch. But it's tough. I mean, the kid was a slinger, and he'd get away and he'd hit someone with a side throw and in the flat. It's really hard to watch. Honestly, I didn't have rat poison. I didn't overlook this game, but I guess now that I look back at it, I did, because I was slow to put my Bama gear on because I knew I was leaving later to go out to this Berkeley game. I was like, you know what? I'm going to stay dry for this game because I'm going to hit some bars before the Cal game. I quickly turned to pouring some bourbon in the second half, but that didn't help the team very much, I see.
Yeah.
It was hard. And I have to also wonder, our offense is solid, and Ryan Williams, again, I'm like, I was speechless when he caught that ball, did another parry, whatever, and scored a touchdown. I thought he actually stepped out of bounds, and another brilliant quick offensive strike. But maybe that's where we hurt ourselves sometimes, is these quick offensive strikes. I mean, you look at the time of possession. Oh my God, 42 minutes compared to 17. By the way, real quick, somebody thinks I'm an Uber driver, just tried to hop in my car. It is Berkeley. It is Berkeley. But I mean, time, like when you look at some of this, like the time of possession, 42 minutes, that's insane. And we score quickly and give the ball right back. And then they have a nice long sustained drive where we get them to third down, and then we couldn't stop them. It was absolutely painful. But a highlight I thought was, obviously some of the offensive pieces. I thought Bernard keeps getting better every week. So he's something to look forward to, especially when we get a couple of the guys that weren't playing today or got injured during the game and couldn't get out there, like Law or Prentice. But yes, there are some holes on defense that we've got to fix against the run. That's a little bit scary. But man, this was like playing Navy or Georgia Southern, and no disrespect to those teams, but with a little bit more talent.
Yeah. No, I'm with you, man. I thought that too, Phil. I didn't think they were going to beat us. I thought we'd make an adjustment, you know, and you know, I mean, I put a show out that said that they could beat us, because I thought they could, but I thought, well, we'll make an adjustment, you know. And if we played these guys, I don't know, like
Don't do it.
You don't think so? I think we'd beat them.
Don't, I know, but don't pull Hugh Freeze here. Let's not out of 10 this.
I mean, I feel like it's kind of like
you're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. I just, you know, after hearing that him saying it'd be so cringy, I was like, let's not. Yeah. I don't disagree with you though. I promise I don't.
Phil, final thoughts, brother. And I'm the woke versus Coke is pretty funny. By the way,
I have to. Well, I have to admit. So I one of my good friends here in the Bay Area is a huge Berkeley fan. So I woke up at the crack of dawn and went out and met him at game day. And I got to admit, Berkeley showed up. It was great, and of course, the game day crew delivers as always. That's the best television show on TV. But there are some great signs out there. I'm interested to see what this game's going to be like. But as far as closing thoughts, that was really painful. You know, my first ever actual Bama game in person was a road game in '99 on the road at Vandy. And that was the first time I ever realized that going to Vandy is really a home game for us. And
Yeah.
you saw that again today, but it didn't help us. What my closing thoughts, though, are this really sucked. There's no way to sugarcoat it. I'm very frustrated. But at the end of the day, I want to see how we bounce back. What do we show up like versus South Carolina? And there's another turnaround. We've got Tennessee. I mean, South Carolina can punch us in the mouth and beat us if Vandy did it, but Tennessee's a real contender, and it doesn't get easier. And then you've got Missouri, and look, we play in the SEC. I am curious to see how we bounce back. What do we look like? Look, I didn't think this team was going undefeated, but I also didn't think this team was going to lose to Vandy.
Right.
So, but hey, it's always a pleasure listening to your show, win or lose. Keep it going and roll tide.
Hey, roll tide, Phil. Thanks for the great call as always, and have fun out there watching Miami and Cal. And we still love college football. Obviously, today's game was nothing that any of us could have ever seen. I mean, think if you would have just bet Vandy, on the money line. I mean, that would have been a pretty good bet for you.
I'll tell you, one of the most frustrating parts to me, Mick, and to me, it's just inexcusable. They asked Kalen DeBoer about it. Having the two number twos on the field at the same time, if that is going to be a potential problem and you can't keep that straight, one of those two guys needs to change his number.
Right.
That's the bottom line. If you're throwing Ron Williams out there every once in a while, where it's like sometimes you're using him, sometimes you're using Cole Adams. So, because they're switching guys out, it can create some confusion, but that is completely unacceptable. It allowed Vanderbilt to continue that drive. They score a touchdown. You can, a lot of this stuff, when you get penalties, it's like some of it's like mental lapses, like pre-snap. Some of it's, during the play where it's like guys are just working really hard. But those types of penalties cannot happen. And the fact that it did, the fact that it directly led to a Vanderbilt touchdown is super frustrating. And you've got to get that. You either need to take Zabian Brown off of your return team. Right. If you plan on continuing to rotate Ron Williams in. You need to stop rotating Ron Williams in, or you need to have one of those two guys change their numbers, because this can't be a problem moving forward, and you're running that risk every time. And it was just completely unnecessary.
Yeah, good point. All right, back to the phone lines again, and we're going to get to all you guys. So hang on. Who's this and where you calling from?
Hi, this is Vanessa. I'm calling from Dublin in Ireland.
Really? Well, that's awesome. Are you a Bama fan in Ireland?
A massive Bama fan for the last 10 years. I'm a huge listener of your show. I listen to it every time, but this is my first time calling in because it's nearly 2:00 in the morning here. But I felt like this was the time that I had to call in and just make a few points, and then I'll let you get on to your next caller.
Yeah.
But yes, first thing, when I watched that game last week, I saw Bama come out with a game plan, prepared, and that is why the first quarter went and the first half went the way that it went. And I felt like tonight, that was exactly what happened to us. They were more prepared. They had a better game plan. They were ready. That's just what happened to us this evening. And it's awful to see us, right? Because that's not what we expect, right? But, and I was listening to one of your callers, a couple of times. It's not the offense. It's not the offense at all. Because I see the defense.
I hope we didn't lose you. Man, this was a great call, Clint.
Yeah, I was
from Ireland. She hung on all
cool.
that time. If you call back, I'm going to put you right back up to the front. So please call back in from Ireland.
That was very cool. Knowing people were listening from Ireland, that is awesome.
And I didn't catch her name. Did you hear what she said her name was?
I didn't catch it either, and I wish I had it. And we hope you call.
What a great accent too. Man.
I hope she
how you
calls back
become
in.
Alabama fan from Ireland.
That was the first time, but hopefully it's not the last time, because that was fantastic stuff.
Well, if you call back in, I'm going to put you right to the front. So I don't know how you got disconnected. Who's this and where you calling from?
Hey, go. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Arlene. I'm calling from New Jersey.
Arlene?
Arlene, yes, from New Jersey.
Well, great to be on the show. How's it going?
Good. I'm calling because apparently, as per my boyfriend, I have a lot of opinions and I should share them with you.
Hey, go ahead. Fire away. Are you a Bama fan?
I am. And I'm actually
I'm actually very disappointed of what I saw today. But I do have a couple of comments and questions for you guys. First comment is that I understand that Kalen DeBoer is a new coach, and with a new coach and a new team, you have a lot to handle to get the team together. But do you think that today this is the Alabama team that was a team, like together? Because at one point, my question is to you guys: at what point do you start to point responsibility to Kalen DeBoer for some of these losses? Because if you think back between the last game with Georgia, the last quarter, the last half, which is 2 quarters, and 4 quarters of this game, they really didn't play to Alabama standards. At what point do you start to point to Kalen DeBoer?
Well, I mean, I think that Kalen DeBoer's done a really good job. I mean, this is the first real true failure that he's had. I mean, the second half of that game last week, I like Clint and I both didn't think it was going to turn into this. I mean, we've kind of thought, well, they get 4 downs, that we get 3, and they took advantage of it. They caught some breaks, but today they're not prepared. They looked like they weren't disciplined. It did feel like that when they walked out on the field, they just assumed that because they were wearing an Alabama jersey, they were going to win. And Nick Saban, who was our coach for all these years, didn't lose these games. And like I said before, Jay Coker, who's on our channel, played for him. He said that they'd go into a game like this, and they knew that Saban was going to be on their ass the entire week, not letting them think about, hey, we're not laughing, we're not joking around. And you're going to keep doing it over, and you're going to keep doing it over, and you're going to keep doing it over. And he would beat respect into these guys through work and discipline and everything else. And that wasn't there today.
Well, that's part of my point. It didn't seem like they were prepared at all. They looked sloppy and they looked cocky. Like, I no disrespect to Vanderbilt, but it looked like they came out, well, it's just Vanderbilt. We got them. We can take care of them. And they didn't look like no one showed up. Am I the only one that thinks that? And no one showed up?
On
Not even
defense.
Neuro. And also defense was just like embarrassing. And then the penalties, I mean, having 2 number 2s on the field was probably the most embarrassing penalty I've ever seen.
Yeah. Well, that's what Clint just talked about, like
it was certainly up there. It's inexcusable. And I mean, I'll say, like, the penalties were disheartening. It felt like, I mean, obviously they came out flat. You saw Nick Saban teams come out flat all the time, but at some point someone stepped up and would kind of take the bull by the horns, and they would say, this is unacceptable. When we hear about, what was it? Tim Keenan after the first drive lost it, or was it Malachi Moore? Somebody, but it really didn't matter. You didn't have enough guys doing that over the course of 4 quarters, and that ended up mattering.
Yeah. So what else you got, Arlene?
Well, I just wanted to say thank you for having me on. I'm a novice college football fan, and it's my first time ever calling. And apparently, as per my boyfriend, I have a lot of opinions, and so I just wanted to call and share them with you.
Well, you did a great job. Roll Tide, Arlene. You did a great job. Your boyfriend's right. You need to call in anytime on the post-game show, because we'd love to hear from you. And I can't disagree with anything you said. So you guys have a great night up there in New Jersey, and Roll Tide. Thank you.
It's going to take some time.
Good night.
It's going to take some time. I don't think everybody should be jumping off of the Kalen DeBoer bandwagon yet. I mean, 67 points in the last 6 quarters, if my math is correct on that. I think it was so they were 7. No, might be more than that. Yeah. 27 points in the second half against Georgia, and then 40, so 60. It should be 67 in the last 6 quarters. I mean, that's real bad football. I mean, you're averaging, if you extrapolate that over 8 quarters, you're averaging giving up over 40 points a game, and that cannot happen. I still, like, I'm really eager to jump into the game tape on this, because I just want to know. I saw some stuff, but where all was it going wrong? Because it was going wrong in a lot of places, but I just want to see, kind of reflect a little bit more.
All right, full phone log. We're going right back at it again. I'm going to get to all you guys, so stick with us. Who's this and where you calling from?
This is Tony from Springville, Alabama.
Tony, what's up, man? Roll Tide. Thanks for calling in.
Oh, yeah. Just want to call and let you give me my opinion on the ball game. I think so much what happened to our defense is I think they were so obsessed with stopping number 2, the quarterback. They wasn't staying in their lanes. They wasn't doing their assignments. The last 2 touchdowns that you seen, when Mordecai Moore, number 13, on 4th and 1, let the guy get behind him because he was so worried about the quarterback. And then on the last touchdown with 84, nobody was in the flat because they were worried about the quarterback. The whole time, everybody was worried about number 2. Should have been doing their assignments and staying in their lanes. Another thing too, if you go back and look at the film, the clock never stopped on the first downs. When you made a first down, it's supposed to stop when you make the change. Clock never stopped. Then on the 17-play drive, there was 3 penalties where the refs on the roughing the passer, where he barely grazed his head.
Yeah,
they called that,
crap.
kept the drive going.
Yeah.
And then when number 2 ran the score in, if you notice, they never went to the replay to check and see if he was in. They just assumed he was in and let him score. With Alabama, every time there was a play on the sideline, they always went to the replay. But with them, they just assumed it was good. That was it. And another thing, too, is our defense coordinator is going to have to come up with some kind of stunts or blitzes or something, because the 4-man is not getting it done. When we go to Tennessee, we're going to get burned if we don't blitz him. And another thing, too, the running game still ain't where it's at. They got a lot of work to do. They could still make the playoffs if they run the table, but this team has got a lot of work to do. But I appreciate y'all's time. I love your show. And I appreciate you letting me call and vent my thing, because I'm not watching football the rest of the night. I'm so down.
Yeah, look, Tony, thanks, brother, and roll tide to you, man. I'm with you.
Hey,
I'm glad that we all kind of hang out and talk, Clint. About this.
My TV in my office is not on right now, so I'm so with you, man. Normally I'd have it playing right above me, and it's just, I'm like, you know what? I just don't even want to look at a football right now. It's tough, man. It's tough just with the way they played, but
they lost to Georgia State. Can you remember a time in the history of football where you see a team go from that type of colossal win to that type of colossal loss in a 1-week period? That's when you really think about it, it is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. I didn't understand now there is the rule change in college football now where when you get a first down, once the ball is reset, they'll start playing the clock again. It doesn't stop on first downs like it used to. And so I didn't know if he was saying that even though they were getting first downs, they just let the clock continue to roll, or would it just be stopped for a couple of seconds while they quickly reset it? But he was expecting it to stay stopped. I didn't fully understand what he was saying there, but either way, it's new for everybody. So if you forgot that, then that's, totally understandable. But that certainly would have helped Alabama, because it was Vanderbilt was getting first down after first down, and just the way how you get 42 minutes is the third down stuff. When you have 18 third down attempts and you're going first, second, third, and then getting another first, and you're just eating clock, just moving your way down the field. That is probably some of the most frustrating brand of football that you can watch your team play, is when your defense is giving that kind of stuff up. It's not a bunch of it. It's not Tennessee from 2022 where you're giving up just a ton of explosives and all that. It is them death by 1,000 cuts. And that is just a brutal, like I said, when they kicked off the football to them at the end of that game, I knew Alabama wasn't touching the football again. And I think that probably 95% of other, people out there thought the exact same thing.
Yeah, they better be ready to step up. All right, back to the phone lines again. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. Who's this and where you calling from?
Hey, guys, this is G. Ellis from Mobile, Alabama.
What's up, G? Roll Tide, man.
Hey, man. All right. Hey, look. So first off, man, I ain't disappointed. It's a bump in the road, but I'm gonna still go out. I'm gonna have my beer with my Bama shirt on. I'm gonna still go out there. I'm gonna wear my Bama hat, and I'm gonna still yell Roll Tide to everybody I see tonight. So my head is still high on this one. But what I was looking at out there, and forgive me, my notes were kind of racking up as I was listening to your callers, but I didn't see non-discipline. I saw a defense that was just utterly unprepared out there. It was like they were rolling the dice to see which way they wanted to go. There was no real intent behind their motions. It was just a guessing game for the whole way. And, I play Ultimate, man, and it's an offensive-driven sport. But on defense, the one thing that we can do is scheme defenses to get them to play into our system, right? And it just didn't seem like they were playing into our system. We were more playing into their hand than anything out there, man. And whatever happened to the power back in Alabama? We're getting by. And don't get me wrong, shout out to Ryan Williams, man. I mean, look, he's the best thing down here in Mobile. He's put us back in the good graces since Jamarcus Russell kind of let us down there for a minute. But shout out to him. But what about the power back, man? We're not seeing. To me, it's looking like we're all finesse out there, man. We don't really have that Bama bravado knocking that ball straight through the middle like that, man. So, now there was a couple of questionable calls out there. I thought, man, that was a clear and present targeting call. I don't think you can get a better example of a targeting call, in my opinion. We can't blame the refs for everything, but that was pivotal. The roughing the passer when he taps the guy didn't even go down. Jesus Christ!
I know. Bull crap.
That was pivotal. That was bull crap, man. That to me. So those were two very pivotal calls out there that really kind of, I think, changed the essence of the game. But speaking of the essence of the game, NIL has changed everything. It's equalized a lot of things this year. The teams that you're traditionally used to seeing, come in there and knock the hell out of them. That's not the case anymore. And I think moving forward, we might need to think of some kind of salary cap type of situation, to kind of get a handle on this. Because, pretty soon, next year, we're going to start seeing some multi-million-dollar and beyond NIL deals out there. Just a couple. One more thing. The one thing I used to love about Bama, and this goes back to that Georgia game and why I wasn't surprised to see what happened in the second half. Kirby came from Bama, all right? Bama was a second half scheming team. They run that whole first half, then they get in that locker room and they scheme the hell out of that second half. So you don't really play the same game that you played in the first half that you played in the second half. It's like we're going with the same program first half, no adjustments. Come on out there, let's try to do the same thing again. Meanwhile, these smart coaches out here, they're scheming, they're seeing what's going on the field, and they're adjusting, and it's knocking us in the mouth. Wolfie Coke was just extremely funny, by the way. That was ridiculously funny. Shout out to the Bama fan in Ireland, man. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Cool, you guys got a great show, man. That's awesome. So I got this little saying that we're working on down here. It ain't the bear, it ain't the goat. After that, it's the boar. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide, man. Thank you. Thank you so much, G. Ellis from Mobile, down my neck of the woods. Little LA action going on, and we're going to get to all these calls, so stay in there. I do want to get to a super chat. I want to tell you guys that we appreciate those super chats a lot. This one's from D. Tut. He says the defense is a real problem. Could it be the scheme? It's more than a trend at this point. Yeah, I mean, he's right, man. Talking about the passing the passing attack, and when you factor in Florida, South Florida, and then the second half of Georgia, and then this game, it does feel like, man, Clint, like we got some issues. But then there's other games that I watch, first half against Georgia, and some of the other games that we played, and I go, well, you know what, Wisconsin's gotten better since we played them. That I say, hey, maybe we're a really good team. It's just hard for me to kind of figure this out because I feel like this is such a one-off of anything we've seen in the last 20-some years, or at least 15 years.
When you look like collectively over the course of the season, yeah, I mean, you got to come to like that conclusion. What I will say is like Vanderbilt in particular, and I'll be able to go back and confirm this, but because they run like a triple option variant, and a lot of people hear triple option, they think pure run, and it's just having more than, one option, like it's having, you got 3 different options on a given play rather than just 2. But that style, what it does is it isolates defenders. Everybody has to play, has to be responsible for a particular thing, and you got to play assignment football. Alabama was either not playing great assignment football, or when they were in position, Alabama really struggled to tackle in those isolated situations. It was not Kane Womack's swarm defense. It wasn't this going against this style of offense. You can't swarm. So that is a big problem, is that Alabama's tackling, in my opinion, speaking candidly, was piss poor, given the type of offense that you're going to play. And they're going to take full advantage of that. And you're going to have a very long day if you can't tackle or if you can't play sound assignment football.
Where is Jaheim Otis? People have been asking this.
Where's Jaheim Otis?
Yeah.
I mean, I've said before, I just don't think he's playing great football right now. And I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's like a, it could be injury related, but I've heard nothing to suggest that. So I don't want to jump to that assumption. When he's been out there, I just don't think he's been playing too great. And I don't know what that is, but I don't think, I brought up Jaden Roberts not playing great last week against Georgia. Mm-hmm. And then, they bring up, hey, Gino Vandermark has had a really good week of practice, and they ended up playing him some at right guard. And it's like, I do think that, I'm sure part of it was the fact that Gino's playing good football, but I don't think it's coincidence that I saw Jaden Roberts Swift quite a bit last week. And then he's kind of seeing at least a slight rotation. And I'm not saying, hey, Jaden's terrible, bench him, anything like that. Love the guy, works extremely hard. I just want to always be honest with people when I see stuff, and I just didn't see great football last week, and I thought it was interesting that I saw that. And now you're hearing about, Gino Vandermark having a really good week of practice, and they're working him into that rotation a little bit. He seemed to play okay. I'll have to go back and see just how good or bad he did, but it's interesting, Mick.
All right, back to the phone lines again. Let's crank it up. We're going to get to all you guys. Thanks for hanging out with us on Cover Crimson postgame. Who's this and where you calling from?
This is Luke from Tuscaloosa. Roll Tide, guys.
Hey, Roll Tide, Luke. Thanks for calling in.
Well, hey, man, I just been listening to the callers, had a couple points, but then I really just have a question that I want to ask you guys, hoping that you can give me a little insight here. First thing I want to say is everyone's talking about establishing the run and getting back to the running game. And I think that's great. That's a great thing to want to do. We were down 13, 5 minutes into the game? At that point, just run the plays that put the ball in the end zone. I think we did a great job of doing that when we weren't getting Jalen Milroe killed off the right side of the football.
Right.
That being said, what defensively needs to change? I mean, we're all sitting here saying it's the scheme, undisciplined players, but I mean, I'm looking at our defense, and we have talent. We have a lot of guys out there. I mean, poor Tim Keenan, every time we line up in the 3-man front, getting triple teamed, he can't get any penetration. It's not on him. So I'm sitting here thinking it's not the D line. And then, is it the linebackers? Well, I don't really know. I have no way to say. I've never really kind of seen a defensive style like this. So what do you guys think needs to change? Hopefully you guys have a little bit better of an education on this and give me a little bit of insight.
I'd probably say, I think there's a transition from the style of defense that you're playing compared to Nick Saban. There's certain things that's going to translate. There's certain situations, certain personnel packages based off like the offensive formation that's going to, kind of carry over. Like last week against Georgia, when Georgia was going 12 personnel, a lot of the times Alabama was kind of in that traditional 3-4 look that kind of was so famous under Nick Saban. But like, I also think that there's somewhat of a schematic, shortage as far as the style of player that Alabama's going to want at certain positions compared to what they have, especially up front defensively. Like Tim Keenan's phenomenal. Tim Smith, phenomenal. But what you're probably going to see them recruiting for those two interior positions moving forward is probably going to look a little bit different. The Wolves have to get more comfortable playing in space. I don't think it's a coincidence that Quay Rusall goes down. He's limited. They're rotating in the other guys. And when they're being asked to do kind of that 3-3-5 look and the Wolves playing off the ball, you see guys that are just not comfortable with it. And I think it starts there, but I think other guys aren't comfortable with their responsibilities in those situations either. And it's just leading to poor play. But in this particular instance, it's playing the style of offense that Vanderbilt plays. It does put a major strain on you. There's a reason I still don't think Vanderbilt from a talent standpoint should be. I don't think they should have beat Virginia Tech. I don't think they should have been able to keep up with Missouri, even though Missouri looked terrible today. I still believe that from a talent standpoint, but schematically, what they do offensively is really difficult to contain all of that. But what I will go back to is you can't just point at this 1 week and say, oh, this is an outlier. They're going to be fun, because there have been issues with some of this stuff, regardless of who they've lined up against. And so you really can't defend it. But yeah, something's got to change. I think with more time, you'll get guys playing more comfortable in it, but I think it might go beyond that.
All right, jump back in, caller. And Clint, you got to remember, he can't hear you, so he's got to listen to the replay on YouTube. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't want Luke. I want you to get back in one more time, and then kind of finish your thought.
Yeah. Sorry about that, guys, but I'll go back and listen to it. But yeah, I mean, I think that there's still a lot to play for going forward, and I think that it's a great opportunity to see how you respond. And I think that we all need to keep in mind that it's not important to overreact. And there are no. Everyone's sitting here comparing the severity of the loss, and I've kind of discussed that because there are no moral victories in defeat. That's the last thing I'll say. You lose, you lose.
That's right.
Never waste a loss. You respond, see what you can do going forward.
Well, great call, Luke, man. Hit us back next week, all right?
For sure. Thanks, guys.
Hey, roll tide, brother. Thank you, man. All right, let's go back to the phone lines again. What's that, Clint?
I will say real quick, I think he makes a good point. I understand everybody's frustrations. I'm frustrated too. You're frustrated, but does everybody just want to accept 8-4 this year and just, hey, because, and the reason I say that is everybody's going to be frustrated tonight. But as far as the negativity and stuff, does it really help if you go in full attack mode? You're commenting at people on Twitter and telling them how much they suck and saying coaches need to be fired. Like, do we think that that's going to light a fire under their ass and that's going to make them better and that's going to make this team better? If you believe that, then I guess by all means, or if you're willing to just concede, you know what, I'm frustrated, I'm mad, I'm done with this whole group now, so I'm going to say what I need to say because, I don't believe they're going to get any better. Like I said, I understand people's frustrations, but also understand will your reactions be beneficial for anybody that's on the team? And that's what I want people to at least keep in mind. And if you ask yourself that question and your answer is yes, then by all means, say what you want to, do what you want to.
All right, back to the phone lines again. Thank you guys for holding on, and I appreciate it so much as we talk about this game. Who's this and where you calling from?
Hey, what's up, man? I called in earlier. This is Justin from Birmingham again. What's up? Can you hear me?
Yeah, what's up, Justin?
What's up?
Dude, I don't know, man. I guess I've had a little minute to process it, and the fact is that I'm still pissed. All right, I'm still pissed. And let me tell you something. I like what the other caller said about not comparing losses, but I'm going to tell you something right here. I turned 35 last month, all right? So I became a fan right around when Franchione took the job. So I was there, for some of the BS, all right? And I remember La Monroe, all right?
I was
there.
I
remember thinking at the time, God, that sucks. But, I knew that it was his first year, and we really didn't have nothing. Saban already said that he's their house. Fact is, man, we got crowned the number one team in the nation, and we are the laughing stock right now. Listen to the Booger McFarland's ass talking about Tennessee, talking about well, look what happened at Vandy today, guys. And I'm just about to my mind is about blown. My mind is about blown at this, man. I just cannot believe it. I cannot believe it. And look, I'm gonna tell you a couple points here. I'm gonna wrap it up. I know you guys are busy. But look, when Vandy lined up on their first drive with our defensive splits and our linebacker splits, it just seemed like the run was there from the beginning. And I'm going to tell you what the problem is. We don't have James Smith on the field enough. All right. James Smith should never come off the field. And Jahad Campbell, while his closing is next level, he never anticipates plays. If you watch Campbell, he is always running the play down. He doesn't anticipate anything. Justin Jefferson was cleared on the injury report. Where was Justin Jefferson?
Good
Where was
point.
Justin Jefferson today? All right. And Tim Keenan is a beast. Tim Keenan should never come off the field. James Smith should never come off the field. Otis is fat and lazy, don't want nothing to do with it. And Keon.
Did we lose? Did we lose everybody? I guess we did. I mean, yeah, I think Justin raises a good point. I mean, you never want to make fun of a player, but I don't know. I get the frustrations from everybody. I'm right there with you. Defensively, you know, Jahad Campbell, I still think you've seen him continuously grow as far as, you know, he's been this player where he can, you know, he was still making the adjustment to being an off-ball linebacker. He was still getting comfortable as far as his run fits, but you never really saw him, you know, be this full-time off-ball linebacker in high school. So there was an adjustment period. Then he comes through, doesn't really play much as a freshman. Then early last year was like a run fit situation. I think he's getting more comfortable as we continue to go. And I think he'll continue to pick up on a lot of those instinctual, you know, types of things. The athleticism's off the charts, though. I think we got Mick back.
I'm back, man. I don't know what happened there.
Did you get booted?
I did. I looked up and and the only people was me and Justin sitting over there talking and by ourselves.
Well, okay. But yeah, you know, I understand what he's saying. I really do. And it's I mean, sometimes, I mean, I'm still baffled by it. Like, I'm still trying to wrap my head around what it is that we saw and like, how do I think they're going to respond? I think that's the biggest thing, is that I'm still trying to decide, because I don't like how that game ended with some of the things that some of the guys did, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll see, man. I mean, you don't want to go down that Mike Shula road where he was so nice to everybody, and then all of a sudden you just didn't have a very disciplined team. All right, let's go back to the phone lines again, and thank you guys for hanging out with us. Please give us the thumbs up as you watch our channel here, Cover Crimson, and if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. Who's this and where you calling from?
It's Clint, buddy. What's going on,
Hey,
Mick?
Clint, thanks for holding on, man. Good
name.
to talk to you, brother.
And Clint, I know I can't hear you, but man, I think you know, I've heard all the other guys come on and sort of the same. Just you know, I think Vandy's probably going to be a top 25 team by the end of the year, but Bama shouldn't be losing to a top 25 team. They should be winning by a few touchdowns. And I think we got a D problem, D coordinator problem, honestly.
You weren't it feels like this, at least the last two, you know, the second half of that game against Georgia and today, it just kind of felt like there wasn't a whole lot of answers.
Yeah, you made reference to the, you know what, through the tin horn comment by Saban a few years ago. You know, other than the first quarter of the Georgia game, our D's really not played very sound football. So I think that's where I'm kind of putting the blame for this game. I don't know that I'm so upset about it, because I do think Vandy's a good game. I mean, upset meaning like the world's over, but what do you think?
Well, man, I just think that it's, you know, I think it sucks, man. I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, and I think that this is, you know, what happens when this is the same thing that happened last year with these guys, which is something that I talked about earlier this week. I mean, I really like Jalen Milroe and all that. I mean, they beat Georgia last year, and then they go in against Michigan, and then all of a sudden they go back to a lot of the mistakes they made before that game where they played so well. And I just look at the performance, and it just felt like a team that thought they were going to show up and win. They just didn't play with there wasn't enough passion. There wasn't enough fire. Alabama obviously wasn't prepared for the way that Georgia was going to, that Vanderbilt was going to run the football at them. But the other part of this, and other people made this point as well. I don't feel like Alabama runs the ball well enough right now. And it's like, and I feel like every time they run the ball, it's really, they're just running the ball because they have to run the ball. I think you might have said this, Clint. And all of a sudden they just really just run it because they want to have a run play on the stat sheet, but they're not running to really run and dominate a game. And that to me felt like, like one of the biggest issues in that game tonight.
Well, I think our offense is, it's the same thing as last year. We said the same thing last year. We didn't run the ball to dominate. We ran the ball because we were trying to be balanced.
Right.
And that's not what we're accustomed to under Nick Saban. And I'm not trying to go back to Nick Saban, but that's not what Alabama is accustomed to seeing on the field. I mean, it kind of happened the last few years where we kind of relied on our quarterback to make plays. And we're doing that with Milroe now. Milroe is awesome. But if you got to drive it down somebody's throat, we're not able to do that. If you got to make a play running the ball, we can't do that.
Yeah. Well, it just felt like every time they could have taken charge of the game, they just didn't do it. They were behind early, but it was.
I don't think you weren't behind. You were never down to a point where you needed to get out.
The defense is so disappointing on so many levels. At the end of the game, you got 5 minutes left, a little over 5 minutes left. You've got 3 timeouts and the 2-minute warning. And I told my wife, I said, we can't stop them. Doesn't matter how many timeouts we got left. And sure enough, they picked up 2 first downs on running plays.
Yeah. Yeah, which was crazy. Watching them run the ball over Alabama like that was crazy. It was crazy.
When I was a kid, I had my best friend growing up throughout high school. He'd say that's horse hockey.
That felt like some horse hockey. It definitely did. Well, Clint, always great to hear from you, brother. Any final thoughts? And we'll chew on kind of what you were talking about with Clint Lamb over here.
No final thoughts. Just first time calling in this year, and man, you guys are doing a great job.
Thanks, Clint.
Appreciate that, Clint.
Man. Thanks for being on our team, and send my best to everyone in your house, and roll Tide, man.
We'll do it. Thanks, bud.
Is it weird that anytime Alabama, Wisconsin to an extent, Georgia in the first half, you go into Western Kentucky, you go into USF, you go into Vanderbilt, to an extent, you go into Wisconsin, and then the second half against Georgia, where it felt like Alabama thought that they would be able to control the game and be able to, it's almost like they're not prepared because they don't have to be, if that makes sense. Like they're, we talked a lot about the team holding a bunch back in some of these games prior to Georgia. And, everybody's like, oh man, I don't know about that. And then they get in that first half and they just unleash all hell on Georgia. And it's like, they've absolutely been holding back. And then you get like a 28-0 lead and then a 30-7 halftime lead. And then you start thinking, okay, it's possible that they felt very in control. You don't want to reveal too much moving forward, and they go into that same mindset and they almost blow it. You played poorly against South Florida for 3.5 quarters. I don't know that that's what's happening. I don't, and that's a very, very bad. If you can manage to win football games, even if it's not pretty, and you can hold on to a bunch of stuff, then that can benefit you down the road. But if that is what's happening, which I'm not sure that it is or isn't, but if that is what is happening, you're not going to do that in the SEC. You got to win football games. You got to come out and you have to have a really good game plan as far as being able to execute, establish your massive lead. Don't assume that you're going to have it going in. You're going to have all these advantages on the field, so you can do different. Nick Saban would tinker once Alabama was dominant and in control. He never did beforehand. They might come out flat sometimes or whatever, but it kind of feels like even entering some of these games, and we did learn that Kalen DeBoer would just rotate a ton of guys. So even though you were seeing a bunch of guys rotating in early in some of these, the first and the second game, that just proved even against like Georgia, they were doing that at some positions. But it just feels like as far as some of the stuff, like they're holding back. And once you're holding back and you put yourself in some of these positions, you're screwed. And I don't know, maybe that's something that flies in the Pac-12, and I don't even fully know that that's what's going on. But it feels that way. When they've really needed to turn it on, they've gotten it, especially offensively. But the inconsistencies, is it just working out that way, or is it? I don't know. It's just strange to me.
All right, back to the phone lines again. Thank you for holding on. We're going to get to all you guys. Who's this and where you calling from?
This is Andrew from Newark, New Jersey. How are you doing, guys, tonight?
Andrew, what's up, man? Thanks for calling in up there in New Jersey.
In New Jersey, yes. I'm a graduate 2014. How you guys doing tonight?
Hey, roll Tide, man.
Hey, roll Tide. This is disappointing tonight. I don't know what's worse, losing to A&M 2012 or Ole Miss back-to-back years in 14 and 15.
This one's, I mean, dude, this might be. We'll see what Vandy is at the end of the season. Maybe Vandy makes a bowl game. Maybe Vandy ends up being a team that has one of their best years. But reputation alone, this is a team that's been the toilet bowl of the SEC. I mean, so much so that Nick Saban even went out talking about how playing games there isn't really even like playing a real SEC game, or whatever he said, and for a guy that hated rat poison, would have freaked the hell out if the former coach would have said that 2 weeks before he was playing somewhere. He sure did he sure did light a fire under those guys. So this one to me, they look, it's truth. Coach Saban, I love him. We all love him. He's the best that ever did it. But boy, he used to ride everybody else's ass with saying stuff like that. It was the perfect storm of just a big pile of rat poison, and we fell right into it. To me, this could be the worst loss I can ever remember in the history of Alabama football.
No, you guys are absolutely right. And honestly, being from a boy from the north, I'm not even gonna lie, going down there not knowing who Bear Bryant was, just at the third, now understanding all this, and even going my freshman year to South Carolina and losing with Greg McElroy, Mark Ingram, Julio Jones that year. I still never understood it. Now looking at it, I always knew Vandy was the worst of the worst, and losing to this, I can't even explain this tonight.
Man, it's hard to explain. What'd you think about the game, though? What do you think went wrong for Alabama?
I don't know. I mean, the third down. I mean, we always hear Nick Saban talking about third downs. Getting off the field on third downs, and converting on third downs. The defense. I really think the defense tonight did not, in Nick Saban's words, do their job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They did not, get off the field. We had to get off the field. I mean, I know the big narrative this week was, comparing this, this kid to Johnny Manziel about, scrambling and, getting off on, third downs and, stopping from the run. But, he kind of screwed us on that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we
and I remember being there, against A&M,
right.
That 2012 year. I remember tailgating the whole year, even A&M fans were like, oh no, this is not, we're get destroyed. And I remember tailgating, and Johnny Manziel, kind of screwed us, big time. That night, this kind of watching the whole game unfold, just kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah, well, man, I'm with you on that too. The tailgate show, we had Preston Dial on Friday, and we're talking about some of that. He brought that game up, and he said that this Diego Pavia reminded him of Steven Garcia, and I said, don't say that.
Oh, Steven Garcia.
You remember that, Clint?
That was actually me that said that.
That was you said that?
Yeah, that's my fault.
Oh boy. And
I absolutely remember. I remember that. I mean, looking back at it, what is it? What about the back-to-back years against Ole Miss? I mean, I know we don't play Vandy next year, I don't think, but I mean, looking back on it, losing Ole Miss the first year in Ole Miss, with I forgot the wide receiver's name, but losing back-to-back years. I don't know if this compares, but I feel like this is worse than losing back-to-back years against Ole Miss.
Well, those were good Ole Miss teams, man. I mean, they were contending for an SEC championship, and they played in pretty good bowl games. I mean, Vanderbilt might win 3 games. What's that?
They were cheating.
Yeah, they were cheating too. Yeah, Vanderbilt, they've had some of the worst teams and records, and they haven't invested enough in their program and all that kind of stuff. But maybe this is something that maybe they are investing, because they did a great job to beat Alabama, and we absolutely walked into it today. We absolutely walked into it. We didn't have an answer, and they weren't prepared. The defense was awful. Our former coach is on TV talking bad about the opponent and their facilities and their fans and everything else. And we all were just cheering. I mean, this is the number 1 team, and we're just expecting, like we always do, just to go in there and roll their ass. And that just ain't the way it works, man. And Saban was the best.
No.
I know I was on Saban for that comment, but I'll tell you, man, the guy's the best football coach we've ever seen. And the reason why is he never had a team go in there and not be prepared to play a game like this ever. He lost to Monroe, but that was with a bunch of guys that weren't really that good. I mean, he added to them, and they had some young players and ended up winning national championship. But that team, and then the other thing is that team had a lot of guys out because of that book scandal too. So they were kind of low on depth and some other. So I shouldn't say that they didn't have good players, but they weren't where they were by the time the next season rolled around. By 2008, we were championship contender, and then we didn't have another one of these games. So I'm going to tell you, we'll see at the end of the year. But right now, this to me is one of the worst losses in program history, plain and simple.
And you know what? I'll add to that. I mean, listen, I'll be straight up with you. I don't remember the ULM loss. Like I said, being from a kid from New Jersey, I really don't remember that. I really don't remember, that loss. So I can't even add to that. But, hearing about it now, I can see how this, I feel like it kind of lines up. I mean, these aren't DeBoer's guys, but then again, these are Nick Saban guys. I mean, these are the guys that Nick Saban recruited. These are the type of people that, are supposed to be in our program. And to go out and to lose to this type of team, I don't know. I mean, so does it fall on DeBoer? Does it fall on, his preparation? Like you said, to your point, I mean, this would, to be real, this would never, ever happen under Nick Saban. This would not.
Right.
God help these players. During this week, for this preparation. I was telling everyone, I was like, I would hate to be in that locker room for the, we beat Georgia. That's great. I was ecstatic. I was, so pumped for that. But I was like, God help these players going in this week. And, listen, there's different types of coaching philosophies. There's different type of, coaching, principles. But going back to, the second half of, the Georgia game, I mean, I didn't see the urgency. I didn't see we saw, Kalen DeBoer fired up, but did we really see him fired up? Again, there's different types of coaching philosophies, but going in this game, and even going back to last week when they were down, yeah, we had a great play, but I mean, again, I guess we're used to Nick Saban's fire attitude, but I didn't see that in Kalen DeBoer, where let's get this going, a little fire, little pep in our step, like let's do this.
Yeah, let's get past this. Well, Andrew, thanks for hanging out with us, man, and watching the show up there in New Jersey, Newark, New Jersey. I famously lived in Heightstown for a little while, so I know.
Yeah, very close.
Yep, not too far. I know about the Garden State, and appreciate you, man. Roll Tide, brother. Thank you.
Hey, we'll call next week, big guy.
Please
I appreciate
do.
you guys. Thank
Please
you guys
do.
so much.
All right, we'll talk to you next week. All right, Clint, still full phone logs. I want to get to everybody, but just comment on what Andrew thought.
I mean, it's tough to argue against you guys as far as the worst loss. I mean, Alabama didn't have what they have now. And what I will say is you knew that the second something went wrong, everything was going to get questioned that Kalen DeBoer does. Absolutely everything. Music at practice, demeanor on the sidelines, players painting fingernails. I could list you 47 things right now that immediately, if it's not what Nick Saban did, people were going to question it. It doesn't get any worse than this. And I'll continue to reiterate, I understand where people are coming from, but the bottom line is there's more football that has to be played. And so he's not getting fired for this one game. Kane Womack's not getting fired for this one game. Let's see where things go from here. Everybody continue to voice your frustrations tonight. No doubt. We're going to continue to do it. But just understand none of what you're requesting happen is going to happen. So just let's see how they respond. I mean, I will be very curious to see how this team comes together. But someone mentioned in the comments that Ron Williams bailed Alabama out, or he tried to, and they're absolutely right. A 17-year-old kid for the second week in a row almost bailed Alabama out of a game they probably should have lost, and that is that just speaks volumes for Ron Williams.
Yeah, it does. All right, back to the phones again, guys, and thank you for holding on to be part of the show. Who's this and where you calling from?
Hey, this is Ryan from San Antonio, Texas.
What's up, Ryan?
Man, I'm just reeling after this loss.
Well,
I don't think we're really talking about how epic of a loss this was. I think this is going to have implications that we don't really quite understand yet. This Vandy team isn't the same Vandy team, so they went out, they got this quarterback, but this is a big-time loss. This is a hot take, but I would have rather lost to Georgia and then won this game in a respectable fashion than the other way around.
Yeah, good point.
You know what I mean? Because for recruiting, this is just not good.
And who knows how it's going to impact recruiting, but you're right. I mean, you lose this kind of game. Unless Vandy, like I said, it's the one thing you got to remember, Ryan, and thank you for calling in and Roll Tide out there in San Antonio, is we don't know who Vandy is yet. We don't know. They're 3-2. They beat Virginia Tech. They almost beat Missouri there. They should have. They blew it. And they just beat Alabama. What are they going to look like in 5 weeks? What are they going to look like at the end of the season? And that's the question. We may look back and go, you know what? This Vandy team may be one of those James Franklin type teams that ends up with 8 or 9 wins and a bowl game and beat some other teams, or they may just be the stinky old Vandy that they normally are. And we went in there with all of our rat poison. We went in there with all of our confidence and not our work ethic and got our asses handed to us.
No, I completely agree, and that's a great point. I mean, we were down 13-0, and there were guys on the sidelines laughing, cutting it up with each other, and that's just not Alabama football. That's not what we're about. We've never been about that. But I don't have high hopes for Vandy. I don't think that they're going to be a good team. I think that they're a one-trick pony, and they spammed their one trick a million. I mean, that one inside option, they blasted that for like 30 yards twice.
Yeah.
That's crazy against an Alabama team. And the way you stop that is you just be disciplined. You have sound fundamentals, and that's kind of piggybacking off of what all the other callers have said and they have all made great points. But it's crazy. I think that the coaches came in here, they thought that our talent and our athleticism would keep the game solidly under control, and Vandy came out to play, and they really beat us there. The refs, there were some good points made by some prior callers. I think there were some really questionable decisions made by the ref as well. But I really do think this has epic proportions for the program, and I hope it doesn't. And I hope that if there's players out there, coaches out there listening, that this is an opportunity for us to come together and that we don't start blaming each other and stuff like that, because that could get really, really ugly really fast. So I hope the team sticks together. I hope they realize there's a long season ahead of us. But man, this is terrible. But let me ask you this: do you agree with my take? Would you rather have lost to Georgia and won this game, or would you rather have won Georgia and had everything stay the same?
Yeah, Ryan, and that's a great point. I'm going to talk to Clint about this, and I'm going to ask everybody the same thing in the comments section, because I think that you make that's an interesting question. I'm going to tell you right now, as much as it pains me to lose to Vandy, I love beating Georgia again. I loved it, especially after that damn T-Rob leaving to go over there, and then he comes back, and then he goes back over there, and then the whole secondary's leaving, and all that stuff. I'm tired of all that stuff. That's the one thing I hope we don't get into this anymore with Saban and all Saban's coaches being brought over to Georgia, and it just felt like it was so ancestral, and nobody had any loyalty to poor Saban. He's the guy making all these coaches rich. And then every time you turn around, he's got his old buddies over there picking his pocket, and it was really our pocket that he was picking, and I guess that's the nature of the business. Yeah. But it was, Texas and Ole Miss and Georgia and it's like, come on, man. I mean, enough's enough. So at least DeBoer's kind of got his own tree going, but I don't know. It sucks. All 2,000 of their fans that were at the game today, I'm sure, that was probably like the height of it. I was there. I mean, I didn't even see any Vandy fans. I mean, honestly, like, I didn't even see any of them. Like, they were like all bunched in a corner. I mean, we totally took that place over. All 24,000 tickets. They were all
Pavia's family.
We did.
It was all Pavia's family.
Yeah,
and we love. You can't not like those guys with the cowboy hats on. Man, I mean, it's like, this is pretty cool seeing those guys out there. So, any final thoughts, Ryan?
No, I just wanted to say thank you. Love the show. I appreciate you having me on, and roll tide.
Hey, roll tide, brother. Thank you for calling in from out there in the great San Antonio, Texas. Man, that is a cool place. My man Chris Klein lives out there. Although I'm sure he's not watching the show right now, but went to college with him at Alabama, and boy, we had some great times back in the day hitting the scene on the Strip. All right, Clint, I'm going to ask you the question and then go right back to the phone lines because we're jammed up. Would you rather have lost to Georgia the way that we beat, or lose to Vandy? We beat Georgia, lose to Vandy, back or forth? You tell me.
First of all, that's the first thing my dad texted me. He said it was funny. I mean, he texted me that like the game wasn't even over yet, and he texted me, he was like, I would have rather have lost to Georgia than to have lost this game. But what I'll say, Mick, though, is anybody freaking out about recruiting, it could impact things. But I also want people to keep in mind, Auburn just flipped Deuce Knight and got their quarterback in this class after the train wreck we've watched them go through the first, 5 weeks. Obviously, they lost to Georgia today, but, that happened this past week. So, they ended up landing their highest rated recruit after starting the year 2 and 3 and looking just absolutely terrible. So, will it impact things? It can. That might be really important to some guys. But I mean, if you believe in the process, it's still Alabama. They're going to get it right. They need a guy like me, to make sure that they get back to this prominence. You don't know.
Well, the goalposts are down in Nashville. I'm sure some of you guys have seen this already, and they're running them around through Broadway. How interesting is that? Just to make this night a little bit better, Vandy was 0-60 against number one teams, and then they get this win today. All right, back to the phone lines again, and we'll talk more about this. Who's this and where you calling from?
Hey, yeah, this is Terry from Northport, and
What's up,
I
Terry?
just wanted to say, hey man, I tell you, this is a rough day. I'm pushing 70. I'm not quite there, but I can see it on the horizon. And I've been fortunate enough to live through all the Bryant years and all the other years, and boy, I've seen some great victories. But this is one of, like you were saying earlier, this is one of the worst losses in Alabama history, especially from a number one team, number one Alabama team. The only other loss I can think that might compare to it, but really it doesn't compare to it, was in 1980 when Alabama Brian had that 28-game winning streak. We played Mississippi State in Jackson. We were ranked number one, and Mississippi State beat us 6-3, and Don Jacobs fumbled right on the goal line in the fourth. At the end of the fourth quarter, all we had to do was score a touchdown to win the game, and he fumbled on the 1 yard line. That's the only other time I can ever think of a number one Alabama team being beaten. And Mississippi State in 1980 was a much better team than Vanderbilt is today.
Right.
And I'm just telling you, we've got problems. My wife really got on to me last week after the Georgia game. I was mad. I wasn't happy. I was glad for the victory, and I would much rather beat Georgia than, that's the answer to the question. I'll take a win over Georgia anytime. But if you look at it, DeBoer coached the biggest collapse in Alabama history in that fourth quarter, second only to the 2010 collapse of Alabama against Auburn in 2010 when Cam Newton was on the team. We jumped up 24-0. Then Auburn came back. We blew a 28-point lead in the fourth quarter. Alabama played pitifully in the second half. Alabama played just pitifully in the second half of the Georgia game, except for two plays, one on offense and one on defense, won us that game. But that poor play continued into this Vandy game. And this is all on DeBoer. He looks like a deer in the headlights on the sidelines. And in my history of watching Alabama coaches, I'm telling you, we've had our best teams under defensive minded coaches. Coach Bryant, Coach Stallings, Coach Saban. When you got the offensive minded coaches, Coach Perkins, Coach Shula, Dennis Franchione. Even though Dennis Franchione we had some good teams, but we've always had championship teams under these defensive minded coaches, and we've got problems on defense. We gave up 74 points in the last two games. Guys, I remember years when Alabama only gave up 30-something points in a whole year. 61, 62, we gave up 39 points. 66, 42 points. My senior year at Alabama, we only gave up 58 points, had 6 shutouts. I mean, we got problems, and we need to go after Jeremy Pruitt. We need a defensive coach. I don't care about the show calls, whatever that is. We need to serve it or whatever we've got to do. But we've got problems, and I look at the schedule from here on, and I just don't know who we can line up and just say, okay, that's a win. This is probably the most devastating loss of a number one Alabama team in my headline of an Alabama team in my lifetime is what I meant to say.
Right. No, I'm with you.
Anyhow, let me stop and take a breath.
Yeah. Well, Terry, thanks, man, for calling us and talking to us. It's good
buddy.
to hear your voice. Any final thought before you get out of here?
Well, roll Tide, and I'm with them win or lose. But we've got some problems, especially on defense. But guys, I love your show, and it helps us to all get together and kind of cry over the game. It kind of helps us.
It does. Well, man,
Thanks
Terry,
a lot.
Thanks, brother. That's Terry from Northport. Clint?
It helps us too, man. What did I text you, Mick, before the game was even over? And it was before, like, it was actually over. Like, Vanderbilt had got the first down. I texted you and I said, "Let's go ahead and go live." And you said, "You said now," and I said, "I know how this is going to turn out, man.
Right.
Let's get ahead of this. Let's get." I mean, because I needed it. I needed to vent a little bit. I needed to hear some of you guys. It was a rough one. I'm just, it's not a good. It's not the show we want to be having. But it's kind of therapeutic to kind of work through some of this because I was just, my wife's in Europe. She's coming back tomorrow. She's been gone all week. My brother's, out of town. I'm like sitting at the casa, at the house myself, just watching it on TV. I'm about to draw myself up a wall. So I'm glad we're here talking about it, man.
Yeah, we even had a call from Ireland. Dar sends us this: the naked cowboy is riding the goalpost down Broadway. That does not surprise me tonight. And maybe he's serious, maybe he's not. But the way that things are going after that kind of a win, I mean, who knows? I mean, and if you're Vanderbilt, you may never get another one of those ever. So you better suck it up and enjoy it. All right, let's go back to the phone lines. I'm trying to get to all you guys, and I appreciate you for holding on so long. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, man, what's this Uncle Charles, man? What's that?
Man, it's good to hear your voice. I mean, this wasn't our best day.
Well, I'm going to tell you just like this. Remember when we talked last week and I said we was blessed tonight to win? That still rings true. We celebrated this win all the way to Friday.
You're right.
We got a game on Saturday.
You're right.
We should have forgot about Georgia and focused on Vanderbilt. This is what we should have did. Let me show you something. I want people to know this. Don't feel bad. Me personally, I'm not mad. I'm disappointed, but I'm not mad. You know why? Because people need to ask themselves, now is Vanderbilt going to play in the SEC championship this year? No. They're not going to play in the SEC championship. But they did just enough to prove that, hey, you're just not going to come in here and run over us. And I'm going to tell you just like this. Peep this game here. Roadrunner, Crowley tried to catch the Roadrunner for 30 years, a decade. 10 years, and on the 30th year, this time, and he flew right past it. 6 miles up the road, Crowley took out the high. And all of a sudden, the Roadrunner did something that I never thought he would do. He stopped. And then Crowley ran up on him, and he looked at his feet, and then he looked up, and he got stomped in the dirt. You know why? Because for 30 years, he was chasing a dream, and now he's chasing a nightmare. This is what I'm talking about. I keep telling you, these coaches come in from another conference. This is the SEC. This ain't the Pac-10, the Big 12, the Star, all that. This is not that. The boy hired the defensive coordinator. He brought his people in. All the blame goes on the head coach. Now, I'm going to tell you something about Alabama fans. I'm going to tell you, the one thing we don't do, we don't forget and we don't forgive. It's what it is. This is what Nick Saban has built when he don't left. Now, I'm going to tell you something. Do you ever think Nick Saban would have been looking like that out there on that field? His face would have been red like Santa Claus. In fact, he would have had no hair on his head when he went to the locker room. Because I'm going to tell you something. One thing Nick Saban said, that ain't what I told you to do. This ain't Nintendo. This is what I'm talking about. You're going to have to change your attitude with this team. Now, I'm not saying DeBoer is not a good coach. I think he's an excellent coach. But this is the SEC. You've been warned. You've been warned. Because if you don't, you're going to be up in Toronto coaching the Toronto Chickens. And I'm going to tell you right now, they ain't won their game. I'm going to tell you that right now. And I appreciate y'all.
Uncle Charles, you brought it again, my friend. Roll Tide.
That's good.
He's one of the best right there. I mean, and Clint, did you understand that reference to the Roadrunner and Coyote?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's
did you know who they were?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, just making sure. Because some
yeah.
of the young people were like, who?
Oh, yeah.
Who's Uncle Charles talking about? This Roadrunner and Coyote? He said he chased him for 30 years. That was funny, man. Great
that
call.
was and I got a little age to me. Man, the more people call, and the points they bring up, it's not that I get madder about it, but and maybe this is naive of me, Mick. I still think Alabama's going to right the ship. I do, and anybody that doesn't agree with that, I understand.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that they're going to win out by any means. I think they at least got one more loss, but I think that they're going to be in that college football playoff discussion at the end of this year, and we'll find out. The big, South Carolina's really good defensively. If they would stop fake shooting people after they get big plays, that was strange in itself, but I want to see how they respond next week. And if they don't respond well next week, we'll be doing this show and all of those thoughts will be done. And I'm saying, even if they play really, really bad and they still win, I'll be on here saying, I didn't see what I needed to see, because they can still handle business against teams if they do things the right way. And right now they're not doing things the right way.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, back to the phone lines again, and man, we appreciate all you guys for calling and jumping on and holding on too as we've gone through all these calls. Who's this, and where you calling from?
Hey y'all, is this me?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. This is Chris from Leeds. I don't know if you can hear.
Yeah, I can. Fire away, Chris.
You hear the crickets. I'm out here walking around because I'm trying to clear my damn head. I'm bad. It's bad off. To me.
Well, we feel the same way. That's why we're all kind of here for this therapy session. We're all pissed.
Yeah.
I mean, who is it?
I mean, nobody saw it coming, to be honest. I'm 40. I've seen the good years. I've seen the bad years. But this is all that stuff everybody's been saying about not preparing and all that. That's I can see it. I can see it. I don't know if Caleb or whatever the hell his name is. I don't know if he understands what it's like to be in the SEC. It's funny, but it just means more, don't it?
Yeah.
Don't I mean? It's not a surprise. The man's getting paid a heck of a lot of money to come down here and coach football, right?
Yep.
And it didn't seem like, and it seems funny to say, but him in a dang t-shirt, that ain't what. I mean, look at Gene Stallings. The man had a suit on.
Yeah.
It's a steady decline of what the standard is. And correct me if I'm wrong. Did he not say that the process, like, didn't he try to distance himself from the Saban process? Didn't he say something like that? It's what I've heard. There's rumors and all that, but I've heard that.
I haven't heard. I'll ask Clint when you get off, because you won't be able to hear him. So I'll ask Clint.
Hear him, yeah.
Yes, because that's the way that this system's set up. We're not in. If he was in the same place, you guys could. But
it's a good show, though. The show's good.
Thank you.
I wish I could hear the other side, though, because I'm like, oh man, am I on right? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's what it is. The technology is what it is, Chris. I mean, we do the best with it that we can. But
even if he didn't say even if he didn't say the process, but it sure seems like the process has changed quite a bit, in my opinion. And I'm just country. I live and lead at Alabama. I don't know, but it sure seems like the process has changed, son.
Yeah, well, it has, man. I mean, you can't. Like Saban, like we talked about it, man. I talked about it all week on different shows that I've done. Some on this channel, some on my channel, the Bama Tailgate channel. I put up a show that said Vanderbilt can beat Alabama, and you should have seen the comments that people put in there.
You don't understand.
What
I'm saying.
Everything was set up for this to happen. Everything.
Well, and don't cut me off. Don't get mad at me. But I'm just saying that could this be exactly what happened with Nick Saban when he left LSU? Les Miles took over with his Flyers, did good for a few years, and he got kind of close on some games and won them. But hey, serious business. Ryan Williams is 17 years old. If he didn't make a miraculous couple of catches in that game, where would we be at right now?
Yep.
We would be buying bricks to throw through Ray Perkins' window again.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's it.
I mean, you lose to Auburn
Caleb
3 times.
Caleb DeBoer is a Les Miles 2.0, Brian Horson 2.50.
Well, look, this is the first, Chris, this is the first thing that he hasn't done right. The recruiting's been right. The coaching's been right. You know,
I
he
don't
did
like
beat
his hair
Georgia,
either.
but
I
this,
don't like his hair.
I didn't like the t-shirt. I didn't like the t-shirt.
Hair. I thought his hair.
Well, I know that.
His hair looks ridiculous.
I don't mind his hair. I would have liked to see him.
Hey, if you want a good coach, you get you a haircut like Kirby, and then call me.
Get out of here.
And then call me up.
Kirby with that bowl cut and that big round head with the giant visor.
That's what a man does. That's a man that's serious about football. You got your bowl cut, and you don't give a damn about nothing but the Tide.
That's true.
Like Willie says.
That's right. I wonder how Willie
If I
took this
piss
one.
about nothing but the Tide and my hair.
Yeah.
Damn, I'm. You know what? I can't even talk, son. I ain't felt this way since. Remember when we lost Hawaii?
Yes.
Back with Dubose and all them.
Yep.
That's just how I feel, boy. I swear to God.
Mm-hmm. Well, Chris, we won 6 national championships since then. So since that Hawaii game. So
But that don't mean nothing, son.
It doesn't mean
Man,
anything
we
right now.
won about $1 billion back in the 1800s, but who gives a damn?
Yeah. Hey,
they didn't have Twitter back then.
Yep. See here.
You know they ain't got Twitter back then.
Right. The bottom line is what the team does from here on out, because everything that they want to accomplish
do from here on out, they gonna get that whip by Tennessee probably, and I hate Tennessee. That's the worst kind of damn orange. It's worse than Auburn's orange, because I mean it looks like you work in a damn road crew out there on 65 North. But that they beating Arkansas right now. You think Arkansas can beat Vandy?
Yeah.
Hell, I don't know.
I think they can.
I know we ain't beating Tennessee. Now, what I saw tonight with everybody talking about Lank and some damn necklaces, and we hollering around. It's the process done. It's over, man. I can't. I didn't think I'd say it, but it is what it is, man. I don't know. I'm gonna go. I don't know. What talk me down from the ledge.
Yeah, I will. What we're going to do is I'm going to say roll tide to you, and then Clint and I are going to chew on your topic so you can hear him.
I'm going to go kick a damn dog because I don't feel like nothing but the damn Tide is damn guy.
Give us, hey, Chris, give us another week, and let's meet back here next week and talk about this. And we'll see what happens. But thanks for calling in. And Clint, I mean, before we go to another call, I mean, look, I know it sucks, and this is a really bad loss. But all you got to do is just play your best football, and Alabama can beat anybody. Alabama's got enough talent to be the best team in the country. But I'm telling you guys, and people are like, well, it wasn't a trap game because we knew that it could be a trap game. No, that's not how it works. It's a trap game when you just think you're going to walk in there and beat somebody. And we had the old coach telling everybody that their stadium is one place you don't have to worry about in the SEC. The guy that's the most famous coach ever. We all love him. But that's rat poison. We beat Georgia the way that we win. Biggest win in college football this year up until today. They blow it against Missouri, who was a top 6 team at the time. Had them beat, just couldn't do it. And then you go into this, and it's like, We did. We talked about Georgia all the way up until Friday. Oh,
Well, I
we're
mean-
just going to show up and beat them, Clint.
Well, I mean, first of all, never ask me to accept like a Gus Malzahn visor coach ever again, please. I was way too against that look for too long to come around now. Don't ask me to do that, please. But what it does, and it's harder and harder. I think Nick Saban was dealing with this too. It's harder to ignore the outside stuff, you know. And so used to, if we get on and we talk, you and I talk about Georgia till Friday, you know, hell, we're still talking about it Saturday morning before the game, or fans are over here on social media and they're just talking about how good, great, and wonderful that win is and stuff. Just before you could avoid that from a team perspective. Nick Saban could avoid that. Now it's like, I guess, you know, in some ways it does start to matter. And that's something that's kind of like, it's new. It's, I mean, where it's new to an extent, but it's like, there's just way too much. Like, these guys are all on social media. Like, you had Bryce Young just a couple of years ago. Now he's a little bit of a different bird. This was big a couple of years ago, but I mean, how many times did that guy tweet? You know, he got to Alabama and he almost shut that Twitter down. I mean, I don't even know if he tweets now, probably doesn't, but it's like, you know, a lot of guys had that mentality where they just weren't really interested in social media, but social media, having a presence helps your NIL value. And so guys embrace it a lot more. You got guys, I mean, do you think Nick Saban would be really nervous? I love, if there was anybody that he would trust to go on to a podcast after at 17 years old, it would be Ron Williams. But you don't think Nick Saban wouldn't be super nervous about a 17-year-old having his own podcast after a game like this going on there, maybe bringing a couple of his teammates, him and Jalen Mbakwe, who's also a freshman? Nick Saban would be either wouldn't allow it or he would be sweating it real bad.
Yeah, right.
Because but that's like the nature of the business now. So you got to fit. I mean, we're living in a different world than we were even just, you know, a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm. Remember, Kentucky almost beat Georgia the game before they played Alabama. I mean, this is the SEC. These schools are getting all the money that Alabama's getting. All these bowl games that these teams are playing in, they're getting that money. You know, so just remember that. You should be able to go out and get some players. And that was always my criticism about Vanderbilt, was not investing back in the football program. But you know, maybe this kind of win, I mean, who knows? Maybe they get involved. All right, let's get back to the phones again, and you guys just hit your thoughts, and then we'll chew on them and just try to get through as many calls as we can, because we've been on here for 2 hours. So, who's this, and where are you calling from?
Yeah, hey, this is Big John.
What's up, Big John?
Hey, how's it going? Hey, listen, just a couple quick comments. I agree with Clint. Justice Hayes, for whatever reason, I don't know if he's not seeing the field good or hitting the hole, but, you know, he seems to be running soft. Like today, he made a couple runs. You're like, you know, like you thought he could get more yardage. But I don't think it's totally the offense. I'm more concerned about the defense.
Right.
I mean, this defense made no second half adjustments. I mean, the fact that they're running up the middle,
yeah, man,
and we make no adjustments in the second half, I mean, that's coaching. I mean, we got the dudes on defense. I don't understand it. I mean, it's very disheartening. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, great point, man. Great point. And hard to argue.
Well, you know, when DeBoer was interviewed going into halftime, he was like, yeah, we got to stop the up the middle plays and stuff like that. So you're thinking, okay, they're going to make some adjustments. We come out in the second half, they do it. I mean, like, it was the same stuff. And then towards the end of the game, what are we down? 5 points, and we kicked the ball off to them. We had 3 timeouts, so I was good with kicking it deep. And then, yeah, I mean, we had 3 down linemen. We weren't stacking the box. We weren't, like, at that point in the game, you got to sell out. I mean, we haven't stopped them all game, so you got to do something. I mean, we didn't do anything like that. I mean, and we couldn't stop them again. So, yeah, it's disappointing. I don't know what that Coach Womack's running or doing, or why he's not making adjustments. But it's, I mean, the way our defense is playing, I mean, South Carolina's next week. Are we going to beat them? I mean, playing like this on defense, I don't see it.
Hey, some great points, Big John, and man, I appreciate you calling in. We'll kind of talk about this defense here on the show, but please hit us after the game next week, and let's hope that Bama's able to get back on track again, because I'm with you, man. I don't know what to expect. I mean, how the hell do you go from beating Georgia to losing to Vanderbilt? And the tackling was garbage. I mean, the Vandy's guys were dragging the Alabama defenders 2, 3, 4 yards for the first down. How many times did you see that in this game? And how many times have you seen that with Alabama? I mean, you can count the losses that Bama's had on one hand in the last, since 2020. And I don't remember any of them look like this, where, they like, there's been points in games where we've had a tough time, figuring out a certain scheme or something. But when Saban was the coach, his specialty was adjustments. And he would have come up with, he could dissect the defense and an offense and figure out what's going on and figure it out. They never figured it out today. They did. The offense was running through us from the beginning of the game until they got the ball with 2 minutes and change left, and we got nowhere close to stopping them. So
that's what I'm saying. Like, why aren't we like stacking the box at this point in the game? I mean, you have nothing to lose, because you're going to lose the game anyways if you can't stop them.
I don't know.
So why wouldn't they do that? I mean, I know that's kind of like desperation, but I mean, that's what I felt like in that, to get that stop with the 3 timeouts. I mean, you had to do something.
Yeah. Roll the dice.
I mean, when
we
did bring the pressure on that 4th down, I mean, we put the pressure on him and he just threw it up. Now they made a great play. I can live with that. I mean, like they just made a good play, but at least we were attacking.
Yep.
We weren't attacking at all on defense. It's like we just sit back, let them dictate what's going to happen in the game.
Yeah. Very, very ill prepared. Well, Big John, thank you for calling in, brother, and roll tide.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Roll tide.
Talk to you next week. Clint, before we go back to the phone lines, any comments on Big John?
Just one quick thought. Did you watch the very end of the game? Like the last, once they got the first down, like I said, the TV's not on in my office. And really, I knew that was coming. I was already starting to walk in here before that even happened. But I didn't know what people were talking about with Malachi Moore. Him getting the flag thrown, like he just first of all, he was going off, and then he gets mad, and like after the ref had set, reset the ball or whatever, he walks over there and like kicks it and gets a flag thrown. And it's like I just saw that when I hopped on Twitter, and I'm baffled by that. That is when you talk about culture, you talk about Nick Saban. Nothing like that. You had what was his name? Or 48 was an outside linebacker. He flipped out on the sidelines. Mekhi Brown, was that his name? Anyways, you had him kind of lose his temper on the sidelines. You had guys get into it. You had AJ McCarron and Barrett Jones, and that you had some of that competitive stuff. But like that's like something that I would have done when I was 7 years old, and I was mad. I was a competitive kid, really competitive, and didn't always handle it the best. But I seeing that is not Malachi Moore. You're a 5th-year player. You've played a lot of football at Alabama. That is mind blowing to me that he reacted that way.
Yeah. All right, let's go back to the phones again. And who's this and where you calling from? And thank you for holding on for us tonight.
Hey, Carson. Live in Dallas now, but originally from Florence, Alabama.
Hey, what's up, Carson?
Hey, man, I don't know. It just seems like an abandonment of all hope from the Alabama faithful. I mean, I've only been a fan for 33 years of my life. but we've done this before. I mean, I feel like this is the first time head coach curse. I mean, Nick Saban did it against ULM, and yeah, Alabama's team against ULM wasn't as good as the Alabama team that we have right now, but also ULM wasn't as good of a football team as Vandy is. I think these things are going to happen. I mean, we saw it against USF or UNF when we played the Bulls. I mean, these unique schemes always give us trouble because we're not playing against unique schemes. We're playing against the best of the best. And when we line up against the best of the best, we fare fairly well. I mean, we just beat Georgia, a scheme that we're going to experience over and over again in real SEC play. And judging ourselves against Vandy just seems like a complete miss. Yeah, it sucks to lose to a team like this, but when are we going to face this scheme again? And are we good enough to beat the next teams coming up? Yeah, I think so. I mean, you don't play against Georgia and beat them and then not handle the Tennessees and the South Carolinas of the world.
Right.
Are you going to struggle against random schemes? Yes. Because we're not going to end up playing triple option. We're not going to end up playing the wishbone again, hopefully.
Yeah, right.
I mean, be unfortunate to go against Army in the playoffs.
Mercer.
Which looks like it could be a possibility. But
what does Mercer run?
Weird thing to say because hadn't been able to say that since the 1940s. But, like, we're not playing to those teams. And, yeah, there's a lot of stuff on defense we'd like to figure out. But overall, do I think this helps us going forward? I do. Like, if there's one thing that this team needs, and honestly the fan base needs, it's a little humility. And I don't think the team had a lot of humility. I think you see that coming out of playing Georgia and beating them. Like, there's a lot of ego there and a lot of ego from the fan base. But guess what? We need this. I always make koozies every year for Alabama seasons. And my last season, Nick's last season, was, it was 2023 Joyless Murder Ball Tour. It looks like we're playing like 2024 Joyful Murder Ball.
Right.
Murder Ball. But I think we're about to go back to like, maybe don't hype yourself up so much. Maybe have a little humility when you approach these games. And if there's one thing that's good for this Alabama team, which is a very, very, very good team, yeah, go back to being a little joyless. Like, you don't need to celebrate every small win. You just need to attack. And when something good goes your way, you approach it with a little humility.
Yep. Yeah. Hey,
I just don't want to toss my hands up this early,
Well, the season's not over. I mean, I'm not going to say it is because it's not. I mean, guys, the season's not over. I'm telling you this right now. We can still win a national championship, and this may be a footnote in the turnaround that this team needs to have. But what this team needs to have is, like you said, a little humility, and they need to learn how to handle success. Even last year with Nick Saban, I didn't think that they handled the success of beating Georgia the right way. I'm listening to Jalen Milroe in a press conference talking about Bill O'Brien. I don't like Bill O'Brien as offensive coordinator as much as he does. And I talked about him on this show. You guys that were here back then know. I mean, look, the guy wasn't creative. He was boring, and that offense underachieved. Right now, they didn't lose to Vanderbilt, but Milroe talking about him in those in that press conference going into the Rose Bowl, and I'm going, man, his head isn't in the right place. This one wasn't his fault. But what I'm saying is that the team's got to be focused. You can't look at the fact that you're playing against Vanderbilt and not put the effort in that it takes to win. And that's what we learned from Coach Saban, because he respected every opponent, which is And how many times would he say, would he just jump on people for saying, hey, we're just going to beat these guys. I just felt like this was a good football team, man. I did. I can't, they had the game of their life, Vanderbilt, but you're right. I agree with you on that. And look, I went to school and we stunk. We lost to Tennessee. We lost to Auburn. We had coaches that weren't any good. DeBoer's a really good coach, but he's not Coach Saban. That's it. He's just not. And he's going to have to learn the hard way. Saban learned these lessons, and he's going to learn them too.
But also, like, what did we talk about a week ago? Like, oh, the Alabama team doesn't have the continuity. If you ever heard anyone say anything about why Georgia would win, they have continuity. We're in our 5th game with a new head coach. Like, the continuity is not going to be there. Are you going to lose these random games that you shouldn't lose? Maybe, but they'll figure out continuity as the season goes on. And just the way the offense plays, I think if they extend a little bit of that mentality to the defense and add in a little humility, I think we're okay. I mean, you got to hope as an Alabama fan, but I think we'll see a lot next week playing South Carolina of how the team bounces back. And if you wanted this to happen at any time, maybe you want it to happen before we go into Knoxville and have to play the Bulls.
Hey, great point. Great point, man. And somebody put in here about Saban losing to UAB when he was at LSU. That's my point, man. All these coaches have to go through this. This is part of it.
Yeah.
DeBoer, he's trying to manage this
first-time head coach first.
Yeah, right. I mean, he's managing the most talent he's ever had, and a new staff and everything else, and they got the wake-up call today. This is the first time he's failed a test, and we'll see what he does. Let's give the guy a chance here and see what he does. We'll see who shows up against South Carolina next week. I agree. I don't think the season is over, but I do think that this loss is up there with the most humiliating losses that I can remember. Alabama. And being a guy that was there when we sucked, I saw humiliating losses, losing at Kentucky, losing to, Northern Illinois, losing the Central Floridas and stuff like that. I mean, I remember, being number 3 in the country and getting blown out at home by UCLA. Like, I remember some really shitty Alabama teams and seasons, but this team's got a lot of talent. The SEC's different now because of the money and the NIL. This was a perfect storm for a trap game, and it was a trap game.
Yep.
So, well, thanks for the call, Carson, man. I appreciate it. How's Dallas these days?
You know what? It was a lot better for today, but we'll overcome it, just like this Alabama team will.
That's right.
We got to have a little hope, a little faith. Nick Saban signed off on it, so you know what? In the meantime, it's good enough for me, and I think they'll bounce back.
Hey, there you go, brother. Well, roll tide, man. Thank you for calling in.
Roll tide.
All right, Clint, we're going to do 2 more calls before we wrap it up tonight. I mean, we're closing in on 3 hours of this therapy session. But your thoughts, man. Carson with a great call. People, like the comment section, gave him two thumbs up.
All right, first of all, people need to prepare themselves because I think Kentucky is going to skull drag Vanderbilt next week. Vanderbilt's going to face the same challenge next week that Alabama faced this week.
Yeah.
And a lot of teams really struggle when they're in that position. And maybe Vanderbilt overcomes, but I'm just saying if they do get completely drugged by Kentucky, don't be surprised and understand what the narrative is going to become when that happens, and they get destroyed by them and then Bama lost the week before. So I'm just mentally preparing people. I know that's not what you want to hear right now, but you need to accept that is a very real possibility. As far as the humility comment, that is very true. I don't think they're cocky. I think they're very positive. It's a very positive coaching staff. From the day one of us being out at practice, they were building guys up. There was a huge emphasis on that. And granted, I've saw Kane Womack crawling some people's ass in some other practices, so it's not like he's incapable of that. But the 2 things that stands out for me really, in this game, as far as the humility is, well, it's not just this game. Kane Womack, him talking to his dad after the Georgia game, the way that he looked when he said, we'll get better, or he said something along those lines. It seemed like a very confident, like, we'll get better. We're fine. And it's like, and that kind of gave me confidence when I saw him reacting that way and he wasn't freaking out. I was like, well, I don't need to be freaking out either. I mean, he doesn't look worried at all. And then DeBoer today, when they did that little late game interview on the sidelines and just the way that he, what do you need to do, or what, and he's like, hey, we're fine. They're still on the 40-yard line. They're not even in field goal range yet. Like, that was a big deal. I mean, give them one play, they'll be there. But it was like just the way that they're reacting to some of this stuff. And you want, like I said before, you want your head coach to be even kill, but maybe Nick Saban, and I knew we were going to do this, but everything's going to get compared to Nick Saban now that they've lost. But there's also, I think he needs to be a little bit more real in some of those situations.
All right, let's do 2 more calls. We'll start right here. Who's this and where you calling from?
Hey, my name's Matt. I'm from Mobile.
Hey, Matt, thanks for hanging on for so long, brother. Roll Tide, man.
Hey, Roll Tide. I mean, I don't know what to say. It just seemed like we were unprepared. If I was to place the blame, which I don't want to, but it seems like the defense, because the 35 points we scored with the amount of time that we had the ball doesn't really seem all that bad.
Great point.
I think it was our defense didn't give our offense the opportunity to have any time with the ball. And so I just think I would hate to think that, the coaches at the University of Alabama would let one slip away like that. But I think that Kane Womack, I would place the blame on him. I don't think that he had his defense prepared. I could tell that they didn't even have a backup plan. They didn't even have an adjustment to go to, because I don't think that they even came up with one. I just thought that they just played their normal defense. They didn't prepare at all, and they went in there too cocky, and with a team like Vanderbilt, it's not the old Vanderbilt,
Mm-hmm.
I really just think they didn't prepare. I just think if they'd have put all their heart and soul into preparing for this game, and with the same intensity that they did the Georgia game, I don't think this would have happened. So for us to say that so it is concerning. I hope that it is the wake up call, but we're all human beings. I mean, even Saban, I mean, he had 3 losses a couple of times. He had 2 losses quite a few times. He got upset several times by several different teams.
Yep.
So it's definitely, everybody's human beings, and they're dealing with their own psychology of maintaining desire and willpower in the midst of success. And I think that we all struggle with that. And like the quarterback with Vanderbilt said, I mean, he said it was God ordained. It was his time for him to win this game. And you could see all the joy and happiness on all the Vanderbilt players' faces. And that pretty much calmed me down and just said, look, they're having a great night tonight. Somebody deserves to have a great night tonight. And we're probably going to end up winning the national championship. So, why not give Vanderbilt a little gift and let them have a win from time to time.
Well, maybe, and I agree with you, man. Thank you for calling in and Roll Tide, brother. I appreciate it so much. Great call.
All right. Have a good one. Goodbye.
But I agree with that, man. Maybe we're going to win a national championship. If this is the fuel that this program needs to get back to be doing the things that it needs to do to be successful, then this could be a great thing. Like the way that they used Louisiana Monroe for all those years as motivation to make sure that they never underestimated an opponent. But if this game is the precursor of the back slope of this, and maybe we're not a dynasty anymore, we'll find that out too. And that's the sad part about it. That's the truth. The bottom line is this, that they're either going to go up or down from here. They're not going to stay the same.
As far as the trolls and the comments and stuff, just understand, guys, everybody does this. Let them have their fun. If they truly believed that Alabama was done, they wouldn't be trying to get all their action in now. I'm serious. I mean, just think about it. This is the time. If you truly believed Alabama was going to bounce back from this, you're like, hey, I got a finite amount of time where I can take advantage of this window, and I'm going to eat it up. So just
Georgia,
understand.
man.
Say what?
Him, the Georgia guy. Like this is payback or something for the Georgia game.
Yeah.
I'm just glad we beat you guys.
I mean,
I'm on the hey, when you guys are scratching your head all week after another loss to Alabama, it was fine with me. I'll take that trade for Vandy.
By the transitive property, Georgia State is a better team than Georgia, because Georgia State beat Vandy, who beat Alabama, who beat Georgia. So Georgia's not even the best team in their state.
That's funny. All right, last call of the night, guys. Who's this and where are you calling from?
That is JT from Tuscaloosa.
JT from Tuscaloosa. Roll Tide, man. Thanks for calling.
Roll Tide, man. A few things. Jam Miller, that boy need to get the ball some more, man. I don't know why we run the ball so much with Jalen trying to get him hurt. The defense looks, I ain't gonna say awful, but when I seen the guy run up the middle and Deontay Lawson just two-hand touched him. He ain't even try to push him down. He ain't try to tap him. He just touched him and let the guy convert for another first down. Third downs, we have to get off the field. We keep saying, we got to do this and that. We have to get off the field. Offense, if we run the ball, we won't have to worry about the time possession. They can cut down on the defense being on the field, all sorts of stuff. The little gimmick plays is cool and stuff, but when you got a running back like Jam Miller, you got Justice, and you got Jalen, like, take the time off the clock. Just run the ball. We don't have to throw the ball around. Williams is great. Don't get me wrong. Like, we need to throw the ball to him, but damn, man, we got to run the ball. But that's all I wanted to say about it. Roll damn Tide.
Hey, Roll Tide.
Is that an Amber Alert? Is it, which who's missing?
Sounds like it's. I think it's my phone. It's like because it goes through my phone. I apologize.
Get in the comments. Let us know who that Amber Alert.
Thanks for the Amber Alert to end the phone segment of the show. But JT, great call, man. Great call. Roll Tide to you in Tuscaloosa, and 3 hours today, Clint, of taking your calls, and we'll be back tomorrow with the Sunday show. I wish that there was a better outcome. I just wish Alabama would have been more prepared for this game, and maybe they're banged up more than we thought from the Georgia game. But at the end of the day, like I said, Clint, my final thought, and I want you to tell us what's coming up on crimsoncover.com, covercrimson.com this week. Make sure that you guys take advantage of the membership there. $1 get you in, or you can do the annual membership and get the Cover Crimson t-shirt. You and I will be back tomorrow. We got shows coming up all week, but I know this is going to be one of those interesting games. You also crunch some video as well. You'll be looking at that and all that on Cover Crimson.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot to look at, and I'm going to not get into the system and write it and then just post it from there, because I did that with the offensive snap count observations and spent a long time doing that, and then something went wrong, and all of the work was, there's not like a safe place, it's a message board. So we got to get that figured out. But what I'm gonna do is type it up and then transfer it all into the message board. But this one's gonna be really fascinating. Just looking at Caleb Odom got some action. I thought that was interesting. I think he could be a big part of what Alabama does as far as the blocking side of things, especially, even though I think he can also be a mismatch. But with Kendrick Law being out, I would have liked to have seen him get more involved. But lots to look at. We're going to be doing the snap count observations. I'm going to be watching the game as soon as we get off this. That's what we'll go do. Be ready for tomorrow in the morning. We'll record a show and we'll put it out for you guys. kind of reacting to things, or at least, sometime tomorrow, depending on Nick's schedule. But this is far from over. I understand people are upset, and you think the world's coming to an end, and I get it. This is as close to you feeling that way in, close to 2 decades. Alabama fans forgot what this even felt like.
Mm-hmm.
So it's new, it's different, but just understand Alabama's far from out of it. We'll have this discussion again next week, depending on what happens against South Carolina. If they don't, even if they win the game, if they come out and they look sloppy, they're playing undisciplined, you're seeing a lot of these issues, continue to be a problem after this ass whipping. I will be right here with everybody saying there's a massive problem going on in Tuscaloosa. I'm not there yet. I still got a lot of confidence in their ability to right this ship. So, Mick, I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody who called in. I appreciate all the comments. I mean, it's been phenomenal. I love doing this. I love the fact that I have an outlet like this where I can hop on, I can discuss stuff, and just people calling in and making points. Some people are trying to push me off the ledge, and some people are trying to get me off the ledge, which, I mean, at this point, I can go either way. But it's been fun. Not fun. I wouldn't call it fun, but it's been therapeutic. That's the way to put it. And so I appreciate everybody.
Yeah, and this is a good comment. Where did I see this? Congratulations, Vandy. You know what? You beat Alabama. You beat Alabama fair and square on the football field. You did all the things that you show up. You're the the 16th team of the SEC, but before that you were the 8th team, and then you were the 10th team, and then you were the 12th team, and then you were the 14th team. You've been the bottom of the SEC forever. But today you went out there, you played a hell of a game. Your quarterback played one of the best games. These were the beat Alabama games when the quarterback just plays this just unbelievable game. And as much as it hurts to say, congratulations. And I hope you guys I hope Vandy has a great season. I hope they have fun on Broadway. And I hope that we get a lot better from this. I hope that this team goes in the locker room, looks around, and tries to figure out who they are. I hope this coaching staff looks at themselves and said, hey, what could we have done better? And then us as fans, us as alumni, us as Alabama people, we just got to appreciate the fact that, there's going to be some losses in there. I mean, we've had a pretty good run, and it's been fun, and it was fun last week. But, you're going to lose some games too, and you got to be humble losers. You got to be good losers if you want to be a good winner. So, but I want to thank all of you guys for calling in. Jim Dunaway for hanging out with us. Big Elmo was trying to get in, and I just didn't want you guys that were waiting on the phone for a long time. Some of these people waiting 20, 25 minutes to get in here and talk, not to get your opportunity. And say, I love you guys. I appreciate you so much. This isn't the show that I expected to have today, but that's why you play the games, man. And that certainly was that. So roll tide to you guys, and we will talk to you again tomorrow. But thank you so much as well.